Chapter 818. He was not there. The journey from Beijing to Wutai Mountain was originally more than 4 hours. However, in such a rainy day, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran drove relatively slowly in case of any accidents. After all, at this time, the Qin family was already in a mess. If any accidents happened, it would be really one disaster after another. Follow? Dream? Calm, therefore. It was already night when they arrived at Wutai Mountain. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran did not go to disturb eldest uncle. Although they were very anxious to see eldest uncle and persuade him to go back to Beijing, it was already night. It was impolite to disturb eldest uncle, so it was okay to wait for one more night. Therefore, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran checked in at the Wutai Mountain Marriott Hotel. They would go to see eldest uncle tomorrow morning. Moreover, it was a peaceful place for Buddhism, so they had to be careful. The Marriott Hotel was the best 5-star hotel in the Wutai Mountain area. After checking in, they went to the restaurant for dinner. This trip to Wutai Mountain was relatively safe, but they were afraid that some people would really take the risk out of desperation. After all, this would solve all the problems once and for all. During dinner, Chang Baji had arranged everything. He would take Brother Wu and Bak to guard the first half of the night, while Nangong and the other 3 people would guard the second half of the night. Although this was the Marriott Hotel, it was located in Wutai Mountain, so it was definitely not very safe. They had to be careful. After dinner, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran chatted in the suite. Qin Ran said in a low voice, "Qin Sheng, we will leave at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Annie has told me the location of eldest uncle's temple. It is not in the main scenic area of Wutai Mountain, but in an ordinary temple some distance from here. We will go to see eldest uncle, and the others can wait outside. Try not to disturb those monks." "Okay, sister, I will listen to you." Qin Sheng nodded silently. He had no impression of eldest uncle because he was young at that time. However, he still had some impression of his sister, who was a few years older than him, but they had not contacted each other in recent years. Qin Ran was not very confident. "I don't know if eldest uncle will go home with us. If he goes back, our situation will not be so difficult." "Alas, sister, have you seen eldest uncle again?" Qin Sheng asked curiously. He knew that the first aunt and the old man had met eldest uncle, but he didn't know how the relationship between his sister and eldest uncle was. If the relationship between his sister and eldest uncle was good, he might be able to persuade eldest uncle. Qin Ran shook her head and said, "I haven't seen eldest uncle since he left Beijing more than 20 years ago. The old man told me that eldest uncle had disappeared like you. It was not until Annie came back some time ago that I learned that eldest uncle had been a monk in Mount Wutai all these years. Auntie and eldest uncle also knew this situation, but they hid it from us." "Oh, I see." Qin Sheng nodded silently. It seemed that there would be some danger tomorrow. He didn't know if his first uncle, who had seen through the mortal world and entered Buddhism, still had feelings for the Qin family. If his first uncle had already cut off his 7 emotions and 6 desires and no longer cared about these trivial things in the secular world, it would be troublesome. Qin Ran was silent for a while. Then, she changed the topic and said casually, "Qin Sheng, 2 days have passed. Uncle and small aunt should have known about what happened to our family. Why haven't they called us yet? Is it because they have made their attitude clear? If this is the case, I think we'd better not go to uncle and small aunt. Since they have something difficult to say and it is not convenient for them to come out to help, we should not ask for trouble." "Well, based on the level and relationship between uncle and small aunt, how can they not know?" Qin Sheng said meaningfully. To be honest, Qin Sheng had thought about this problem long ago and had been waiting for the Zhu family's call. At least a call with concern would do. After all, they were the nephew and niece of the Zhu family. Would they really watch others bully them? Qin Ran could hear the disappointment in Qin Sheng's words, but she still smiled and comforted him. "Then let's wait for a while. I believe that uncle and small aunt will not ignore us like this. If they really don't care about us, I will go to grandma and reason with her. I don't believe it at that time." Of course, Qin Ran was joking. Grandma was already so old. How could she disturb her grandma? If grandma got the news and got too excited, and something happened to her, it would not be worth it. Qin Sheng smiled and replied, "Well, sister, it's getting late. Let's go to bed early." After the sister and brother said good night to each other, they went back to their rooms to rest. After Qin Sheng took a shower, he called Lin Su. Since he came back yesterday, Lin Su did not disturb him. She only called him a few times on WeChat. Qin Sheng was busy and did not have time to reply. He knew that Lin Su must be worried about him. Lin Su, who was far away in Shanghai, was still working overtime in the company. Qin Sheng left Shanghai because of the Qin family's accident, which made Lin Su very uneasy these 2 days. Even though she went back so early, she could not fall asleep. She had been worried about Qin Sheng all the time. However, she knew that Qin Sheng was very busy now, and she could not help him, so she did not dare to disturb him. Hearing the phone ringing, Lin Su frowned slightly. When she saw that it was Qin Sheng who called, she was very surprised. So she quickly picked up the phone and could not wait to ask, "Honey, are you okay?" Hearing Lin Su's voice, Qin Sheng felt very relieved. He said softly, "Don't worry. Everything is fine. You can rest assured." Lin Su knew that Qin Sheng was comforting her. How could he be fine after such a big accident happened? She estimated that the Qin family had already been in a mess. Lin Su had no choice but to say, "Well, then take care of yourself. If anything happens, call me at any time." "Well, I know. How about you? Are you at home or in the company?" Qin Sheng asked casually. He knew that Lin Su was a strong working woman. If she did not have him as her boyfriend, she would probably work overtime in the company every day. Lin Su replied, "I'm still in the company. I have some things to deal with. I'll go home in a while." After Qin Sheng heard that, as expected, he had no choice but to say, "No matter how much work you have, it won't be too late to do it tomorrow. Take care of yourself. I'm not in Shanghai, so you have to take care of yourself. Don't make me worry. If anything happens, go to Small Ant. Don't bear it alone." "Well, I know. Don't worry," Lin Su replied with some distress. Qin Sheng did not say much. He just said, "Then I won't bother you anymore. I'm a little tired. I'll go to rest first. I still have something to do tomorrow morning." After that, Qin Sheng hung up the phone with Lin Su. He was still somewhat worried about leaving Lin Su alone in Shanghai. After all, there were still some messes in Shanghai that had not been dealt with. If those people could not find out that he had gone to look for Lin Su, it would be somewhat troublesome. So Qin Sheng had already called Bao Fan in advance and asked him to take care of Lin Su in case anything happened. In the early morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone on Mount Wutai, Qin Sheng had already gotten up. If it were not for the special period, Qin Sheng really wanted to go out for a walk. After all, Mount Wutai was a place where outstanding people lived. After opening the balcony window, the fresh air instantly blew in, making people feel refreshed. After the rain, the weather today was especially good, making people feel very comfortable. Standing on the balcony, they could see the beautiful scenery of Mount Wutai in the distance. This time, they definitely did not have time to wander around. When there was a chance in the future, they would definitely come to Mount Wutai again. After having breakfast, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran set out for the temple where their eldest uncle was. It was only a half-hour journey from here. They were not in a hurry, but they were somewhat uneasy. They did not know what would happen. Half an hour later, the 3 cars finally found the temple where Qin Chongqing was based according to the navigation. After the cars stopped, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran got out. Qin Sheng looked at the others behind him and said, "You wait outside. My sister and I will go in." Chang Baji and the others nodded and did not say anything. They just quickly scattered around the temple to prevent people from taking advantage of the situation and sneaking in. It was not until then that Qin Sheng and Qin Ran looked at the temple, which did not seem to have a lot of incense sticks, with great interest. Judging from the dilapidated building of the temple, it must have been there for some years. Compared with those famous temples in the main scenic area of Mount Wutai, this place was really a bit deserted. There were no tourists here. They did not know why their eldest uncle had become a monk here. However, these were not the problems they considered. Perhaps it was because this place was relatively deserted that their eldest uncle had chosen this place. If it had been those temples in the main scenic area of Mount Wutai, Their eldest uncle might not have liked them. After all, those temples were too busy, which lacked the tranquility of Buddhism. After Qin Sheng and Qin Ran met each other, they walked into the temple slowly. This was the first time for the two generations of the Qin family to meet each other after more than 20 years. They did not know what kind of scene it would be. When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran walked to the gate of the temple, they were naturally stopped by the little monk who guarded the gate. The little monk said bluntly, "What's wrong? Are you here for our eldest master again?" During this period of time, there had been many visitors to the eldest master. The little monk had long been used to it. He was really annoyed by these visitors. Consequently, when he saw these luxury cars, the little monk knew that they were here for the eldest master again. He did not know what had happened recently. Why had not many people come to the eldest master in the past few years? However, the little monk was not stupid. From the clothes of these visitors, he knew that they were not ordinary people. He did not know what the eldest master had been doing before he became a monk. How did he know these people? As a matter of fact, another group of people came today. Fortunately, the eldest master was not here, which saved a lot of trouble. Eldest master? Qin Ran frowned and said. However, it seemed that the person he was talking about was her eldest uncle. Qin Sheng said politely, "Little master, we are here for Master Qin Chongqing. I don't know if he is here. Please inform him for us." After hearing that, the little monk was somewhat happy. As expected, he had guessed correctly. It was because he knew that the eldest master's secular name was Qin Chongqing. However, immediately after that, he said somewhat impatiently, "Eldest master is not here. You better go back. Even if he is here, he probably won't see you." This made Qin Sheng and Qin Ran somewhat surprised. Could it be that eldest uncle was really not here? However, they could hear the impatience of the little monk and thought that he was deliberately making things difficult for them. They had no choice but to tell the truth. "Little master, we are Master Qin Chongqing's niece and nephew. Something happened at home, so we came to Master Qin Chongqing. Please inform him." The little monk waved his hands and said casually, "I've already said that the eldest master is not here. Why don't you believe me? If you don't believe me, you can go in and look for him yourself. Anyway, our small temple is not so big. We can search through it in a few minutes. Let's go." After that, the little monk directly made way for Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. He did not stop them and indicated that they could go in and look for him themselves. Chapter 819. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were extremely disappointed. They kept silent at the same time and did not know how to face such a result. If eldest uncle was not here, where could he go? Did God want to destroy the Qin family and not give them any chance to resist? If they could not find eldest uncle and he did not return to Beijing, the Qin family's current situation would be really worrying. Qin Ran did not give up and asked again, "Little master, do you really not know where Master Qin Chongqing went?" "Benefactors, I really don't know. Eldest master never came back after he left last night. Even my master is missing. If my master is here, he might know where eldest master went. Don't make things difficult for me. I told you that if you don't believe me, you can go in and find him," the little monk said honestly. If it was someone else, the little monk might not have said anything. However, after hearing that these two handsome guys and beautiful girls were eldest master's nephews and nieces, he became more polite. Qin Sheng heard the little monk's words and frowned. "Did you say that my eldest uncle left last night?" "Yes. Eldest master has not left the temple for many years. I thought he would come back soon. Who knew that he would not come back until now? Maybe you can wait for a while. Maybe eldest master will come back suddenly," the little monk continued. Qin Ran asked again, "Little master, can you contact eldest master or your master?" "I, almsgiver, am I that stupid? If I could contact them, I would not talk so much nonsense," the little monk said helplessly as if he had been laughed at. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran looked at each other and seemed to have something to say. Since eldest uncle was not here, it was meaningless for them to stay here. They had to say, "Okay, little master, since eldest uncle is not here, we will not disturb you. See you again if fate allows." After saying that, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran turned around and were ready to leave. They had to discuss other countermeasures without eldest uncle. They could not stay here forever. After all, they could not afford to delay the matter in Beijing. At this time, the little monk suddenly asked curiously, "By the way, are you really eldest master's nephews and nieces?" "Yes." Qin Ran nodded casually. After getting a satisfactory reply, the little monk did not say anything more. This time, they turned around and left. After they walked out of the temple gate, the little monk could not help but mutter, "How beautiful." He had been in this shabby temple for many years, but it was the first time that he had seen such a beautiful and graceful benefactor. It seemed that a certain woman who had come to the great master last time was also very graceful, but she seemed to be a little older. After thinking of this, the little monk hurriedly lowered his head and shouted, "I have sinned. I have sinned. Buddha, forgive me. Amitabha, Amitabha." When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran walked out of the temple, the others outside the temple did not expect that they would leave so soon. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran did not say much. They just said, "Let's go back to the hotel first." Everyone immediately understood that the result was obviously not satisfactory. Perhaps they had not found the person, or perhaps they had found the person but were unwilling to leave. Half an hour later, after they arrived at the Marriott Hotel at the foot of Mount Wutai, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran sat opposite each other in the room. Chang Baji and the others stood not far away. Qin Ran felt a headache coming on as she said, "Qin Sheng, eldest uncle is not here. What should we do now?" Qin Sheng supported his head with his hands and said, "Sister, it is not the problem of whether eldest uncle is here or not. The little monk said that eldest uncle left last night. Why do you think eldest uncle suddenly left? Why did he choose to leave after the Qin family was in trouble and before we arrived? Did eldest uncle already know that the Qin family was in trouble and knew that we would definitely come to find him, so he avoided meeting us?" Qin Ran gritted her teeth and replied, "Qin Sheng, do you mean that even if eldest uncle saw us, he might not agree to go back?" "Yes, sister. So I'm afraid that we will go back disappointed. Now that eldest uncle is missing, we definitely can't find him in a short time. If he doesn't want to see us, he naturally has a way to avoid us. What we lack the most is time, and we can't waste it here. So it is a bit troublesome." Qin Sheng felt a headache coming on. He did not expect that this would be the result he got after rushing here. Qin Ran was somewhat upset. She lowered her head and said dejectedly, "Qin Sheng, what do you think we should do?" At this time, Chang Baji, who was not far away, suggested, "Qin Sheng is right. It is useless to stay here now. Maybe we can't find him in a short time. Why don't we leave 2 people here and use our resources to lead people to look for him here? The others go back to Beijing first. We will come back when there is news. What do you think?" Qin Sheng said helplessly, "This is the only way. Let's go back to Beijing first. Yesterday's board meeting ended on a bad note. I don't know what the internal situation of the group is like now. I'm afraid that 6th uncle and the others will be too unscrupulous when we are not here. At the same time, we have to prepare for the shareholders' meeting. There are too many things that we need to do." "Then let's go back to Beijing now," Qin Ran said without hesitation. Indeed, there were too many things that needed them to do. They would be more or less worried if only Auntie was left in Beijing. They did not stop. After arranging who would stay, the others packed up their things and checked out of the hotel to go back to Beijing. It seemed that they did not want to delay even a second. When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran had just walked out of the hotel lobby, a strange man suddenly appeared in front of them. He directly blocked their way and asked bluntly, "Are you Qin Sheng and Qin Ran?" The strange man looked very dangerous. Chang Baji and the others were on guard. They were afraid that he was a killer sent by the other side. They immediately stood in front of Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. Chang Baji glared at them and said, "Who are you?" The man in a black suit and sunglasses replied calmly, "Don't be nervous. I am not your enemy. I just want to tell you a piece of news." At this time, Qin Sheng pushed the others away and walked to the front. He still did not believe that someone dared to be so presumptuous in the daytime. Even if he wanted to find trouble with them, he would definitely find a quiet time at night. So he asked, "What news?" The strange man took off his sunglasses and replied calmly, I know where your eldest uncle is. You're looking for him, right? I will take you to him. What? Qin Sheng was a little shocked. It did not occur to him that this person actually knew where his eldest uncle was. Even Qin Ran was very surprised. She hurriedly walked to the front. Both Qin Sheng and Qin Ran did not expect that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. Just when they were about to leave, someone suddenly told them where their eldest uncle was. This was undoubtedly a big surprise. However, they did not know the identity of the man in front of them, so they calmed down after the joy. Qin Sheng looked directly at the strange man. From his body shape, he could tell that he was not an ordinary person. Just the muscles on his arms alone could not be trained in the gym. They were full of explosive power, especially the calluses on his hands, which directly showed who he was. Sure, but you have to tell me who you are first. Why should we trust you? How did you know where my eldest uncle is? And why did you take the initiative to take us there? Qin Sheng asked a series of questions directly. The strange man was not surprised by Qin Sheng's questions. Given the Qin family's current situation, no one dared to trust others easily. Moreover, the family head had already told him. He had to tell the truth. Fu Jin, Xianyu, Yin Chaozong, Fu Rong, He Wei. Is that enough? If it is not enough, I have enough things for you to trust me. After hearing what he said, Qin Sheng already knew the identity of this man. Obviously, he was the weird pair of senior and junior who had been sent by the old man to kill Yin Chaozong last time. Even if he did not trust this man, with Chong Baji and the others by his side, they would not be too dangerous. Therefore, Qin Sheng answered in this way. Enough. Lead the way. After hearing this, the strange man directly turned around and walked to the parking lot. Qin Sheng and the others followed him closely. At this time, the driver had also driven the car over. After the strange man left the Marriott Hotel, they followed him without hesitation. At this time, Qin Ran asked, Qin Sheng, is he really trustworthy? I'm not entirely convinced, Qin Sheng said honestly. It did not mean that he would completely believe the man after he told him that. The trust between people was not that simple. Qin Ran was worried. What if there's an accident? Sister, don't worry. With Lao Chong and the others here, there will be no accident. Anyway, we can't go back like this. Whether eldest uncle is willing to go home or not, we have to meet him at least. After all, he is our eldest uncle, Qin Sheng said with a sigh. Qin Ran stopped talking and listened to Qin Sheng's arrangement. The strange man drove a Volvo X60 and led the way. He did not go in the direction of the previous dilapidated temple. Instead, he went directly to the main scenic area of Mount Wutai. As he went further and further, Chong Baji and the others followed closely behind him. At the same time, they kept vigilant in case this man was really sent by their opponents. About 40 minutes later, the man with sunglasses finally arrived at the key point of this trip, Mount Wutai's Golden Pavilion Temple. He directly parked the car in the parking lot. After that, he got out of the car and walked directly to Qin Sheng and the others. At this time, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran also got out of the car. Mount Wutai was one of the 4 famous Buddhist mountains. There were many temples here, but most of them were yellow temples of Tibetan Buddhism. A few of them were green temples of Han Buddhism. This Golden Pavilion Temple was one of the top 10 green temples of Mount Wutai. It was built in the 2nd year of the Tang Dynasty and had a history of more than 1,000 years. After the man with sunglasses walked in front of Qin Sheng and Qin Ran, before he said anything, Qin Ran asked, Is my eldest uncle here? The man with sunglasses nodded silently and said, Yes, he is here. He is in the meditation room at the back. My task has been completed. As for whether he wants to see you or not, it's up to you. After that, the man with sunglasses turned around, got into the car, and left again without saying any nonsense. At first, Qin Sheng and the others did not believe the man with sunglasses. At this time, they had no choice but to believe him. If the man with sunglasses had been sent by their opponents, he would not have brought them to this peaceful place of Buddhism. Therefore, it was highly likely that their eldest uncle was here. After Qin Sheng and Qin Ran looked at each other, they said, Sister, let's go. No matter what the result is, we have to meet him. More than 10 minutes later, under the old locust tree in the backyard of the Golden Pavilion Temple. Qin Changxing was enjoying the cool air under the shade of the tree. He closed his eyes and rested his mind. No one knew what he was thinking. At this time, a young monk walked over. After he lowered his head and greeted Qin Changxing, he said, "Master, someone is looking for you outside." Qin Changxing kept silent, as if he was not moved at all. His meaning was quite obvious. However, he must have heard it. It did not occur to him that after hiding here, he would still be found. It seemed that there was no peaceful place in Mount Wutai anymore. The young monk thought that Qin Changxing did not hear it. He continued to say, "Master, they said they are your nephew and niece." After hearing this, Qin Changxing opened his eyes instantly. This time, he really could not hide anymore. He could not hide anymore. Chapter 820. Reunion again. With tears of joy, Qin Changxing didn't know how they found him. No one should know his whereabouts. How did they find him? Could it be that he had been secretly watched? It seemed very possible. Otherwise, how could he be found? But he didn't know who was watching him. Was it someone from the Qin family or someone else? Qin Changxing didn't care about these questions anymore. Since he had been found, he couldn't hide even if he wanted to. Moreover, they were his nephew and niece. He hadn't seen them for so many years. It was not a big deal to meet them. After all, he was their eldest uncle. As for who was watching him, Qin Changxing didn't care. Although he was in the desolate place of Mount Wutai, for some people, he was also a key chess piece on the chessboard. How could they leave him out? Qin Changxing let out a long sigh. There were so many things in the world. No one could stay out of it. The storm of the Qin family finally involved him. How could he stay out of it? Consequently, Qin Changxing had to say to the young monk, "Bring them in." At the entrance of the meditation room of Jinj Temple, no tourists were allowed to enter. Usually, there would be 2 monks guarding here, in case curious tourists would disturb the meditation of the masters. Most of the time, there were no tourists or benefactors like this. Qin Changxing didn't expect to meet them today. Fortunately, they were polite and were just looking for someone. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran stood at the entrance, feeling a little uneasy. They didn't know the identity of the stranger. Since he could bring them here, it meant that their eldest uncle was probably here. However, the young monk had already gone inside to inform them. They didn't know whether they could find their eldest uncle. Even if they found their eldest uncle, they didn't know whether he would meet them. After all, they couldn't break him by force. After they waited for 10 minutes, the young monk finally came out. He bowed to them and said, "Ba, I'll bring you in." Upon hearing this, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran finally heaved a sigh of relief, because everything had been settled. That was, eldest uncle was indeed here, and eldest uncle had indeed agreed to meet them. At this time, they did not need to worry about anything anymore. Qin Sheng turned around and said to Chang Baji, "Lao Chang, you stay here. My sister and I will go in." After all, this was the living place of the monks in the temple. It was not good for too many people to go in. Chang Baji was a little worried as he said, "I'm afraid that there might be some danger. Let me go in with you." The monk guarding the door said unhappily, "It's broad daylight. What kind of danger can there be inside? This is a place for us monks, not some mountain of knives or sea of fire. What are you talking about?" Chang Baji did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was too lazy to argue with these monks. He did not like Buddhism very much, but he was closer to Taoism. This time, he came to Mount Wutai just to protect Qin Sheng, just like how he had gone to Mount Putuo, and so on. Qin Sheng said again, "Lao Chang, it's okay. You guys just wait here." Seeing that Qin Sheng had made up his mind, Chang Baji did not say anything more. He could only watch them walk into the Zen courtyard of Jinj Temple. After they left, Brother Wu, who was at the side, asked worriedly, "Uncle Chang, aren't you afraid that something might happen?" Chang Baji winked at Brother Wu. Brother Wu immediately understood what was going on. He made an excuse to go to the toilet and ran away. As for what his real purpose was, it was already self-evident. If he could not do it openly, he could only do it secretly, just in case. On the way to the backyard, Qin Ran asked casually, "Qin Sheng, who is that strange man? Why you trust him so much?" Some time ago in Shanghai, The old man sent a man and a woman to help me with something. He just told me the identity of the man and woman. They should be their people, Qin Sheng explained honestly. He was almost certain. After all, not many people knew that Fu Rong and He Wei went to kill Yin Chaozong. How did this man know about it? Qin Ren muttered to herself. A couple? Is it because the man is handsome but a little feminine, and the woman is beautiful but a little cold? Qin Sheng was a little surprised as he asked, Sister, do you know them? It was not until then that Qin Ren understood what was going on. If that was the case, the strange man's identity could be easily explained. He should be the guardian family behind the Qin family. Apart from them, there was no one else. Guardian family? Qin Ren suddenly came to her senses. How could this matter be over? Since they were the guardian family, now that the Qin family was in such a big trouble, should they help the Qin family to get through it? Based on the current situation, the so-called guardian family should have a strong background. If they helped the Qin family, it could also reduce the pressure on the Qin family. Qin Sheng noticed that Qin Ran was in a daze, so he frowned and asked, Sister, what are you thinking about? After Qin Ran came to her senses, she said, I've seen them. I saw them when they went to the background to look for the old man. At that time, they took out a token that only the old man could recognize, saying that it was left by my grandfather. The old man firmly believed in their identity, so the man just now should also be one of them. There's no need to doubt anything anymore. Qin Sheng did not expect this to happen. He asked confusedly, Sister, do you know who they are? They are not others. They're the guardian family behind the Qin family. They should be arranged by Grandpa, Qin Ran said honestly. After all, Qin Sheng was now the head of the Qin family. She had to let him know these things. Qin Sheng was a little shocked and said, Guardian family? At this time, the young monk had already led them to the backyard where Qin Chongqing was. Qin Ran saw the master standing under the old locust tree from afar, but he had his back to them, so she could not see his specific appearance. However, Qin Ran felt a sense of familiarity, almost sure that he was her uncle. Therefore, Qin Ran did not have time to explain to Qin Sheng. She replied, These things are not urgent. I will tell you slowly when we go back. Qin Sheng followed his sister's gaze and also saw the monk under the old locust tree, whose back seemed to have experienced some vicissitudes. Could it be that he was his long-lost uncle? At this time, the young monk also revealed a mystery at this time. He pointed at Qin Chongqing, who was not far away, and said, Here we are. Master is there. You can go over. Then he turned around and left. It was a sunny day today. There were no clouds in Mount Wutai, and the sky was blue like the reflection of the sea. The monk under the shade of the tree was as still as a mountain. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran also stopped subconsciously. After more than 20 years, they thought that they would not be too entangled when they met again, but they did not expect that they still could not move. Qin Sheng looked at the master in the distance and murmured, Sister, is that uncle? In fact, the young monk had already given them the answer, but they were a little nervous, so they dared not believe that this was the long-lost uncle. Looking at the monk in the monk's robe, who had already shaved his head and become a monk, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran suddenly had a feeling that they should not disturb Uncle. After all, Uncle had really become a monk. Even if Uncle was willing to go back to Beijing, how could he help the Qin family? In the end, it was Qin Ran who plucked up her courage and said, Let's go. Qin Sheng had no choice but to walk forward with his sister. When they were about 3 meters away from the monk, Qin Ran and Qin Sheng stopped. After taking a deep breath, they said at the same time, Uncle. After hearing that, Qin Chongqing thought that he could not be moved. After all, no matter whether it was Zhao, Anji, or Qin Chang'an, his heart had always been as firm as a rock. However, when he heard Qin Ran and Qin Sheng calling him uncle, Qin Chongqing was defeated. The defense in his heart collapsed, and his eyes turned slightly red. Qin Chongqing said with his back to Qin Ran and Qin Sheng, There's no uncle here, only an old monk. He did not turn around. He was afraid that he could not face these 2 fragile children. No matter how old they were now, in his eyes, they were still children in the past. As for the memory of Uncle, Qin Sheng had long lost, but Qin Ran remembered it very clearly. She could not help walking forward, and at the same time, she said with tears, "Uncle, are you really uncle? I am Ran Ran." This made Qin Chongqing even more restless. His entire body was moved. When he thought of the little girl who always liked to hold his hand and ask him to buy delicious food for her, he could not help but want to turn around and see what the little girl had grown up to become. At this time, Qin Ran had already walked behind Qin Chongqing. She wanted to reach out and hug her uncle, but she did not dare to offend him. She looked a little helpless. She could only sob and say, "Uncle, I am Ran Ran. Why don't you see Ran Ran?" At this time, Qin Chongqing finally could not stand it anymore. After a long breath, he slowly turned around, restrained his excitement, and forced himself to calm down. After silently reciting the Buddhist scriptures, he said, "Ran Ran, you have grown up so much." This was what Qin Chongqing had prepared long ago. He had said it before he saw Qin Ran's appearance. However, when he saw Ran Ran's appearance after 20 years, he was somewhat shocked and stunned. The little girl in the past had really grown up. More than 20 years seemed to pass really quickly. In the blink of an eye, it had passed. Ran Ran was already so grown up, but she was still so beautiful. She was as beautiful as her mother and had the same temperament as her mother. She was indeed the daughter of the Qin family. Qin Ran said excitedly, "Uncle, do you still recognize me?" "I am Ran Ran," Qin Ran said excitedly. She smiled and cried. Qin Chongqing sighed with emotion. He reached out his hand subconsciously and wiped away Qin Ran's tears. He said, "Of course I do. Why don't you recognize Ran Ran?" As soon as he said this, it meant that Qin Chongqing had already admitted his identity. This was the reunion of the two generations of the Qin family after more than 20 years. When they had parted in the past, they did not have too many feelings. However, now that they had reunited, they had mixed feelings. Fate always played tricks on people like this. It had given the two generations of the Qin family such a big setback. However, now that they had finally reunited, it seemed that it was not too late. Qin Sheng, who was not far away, had long been immersed in this kind of emotion. He had also forgotten the purpose of this trip. It seemed that it was enough for them to see their uncle. Chapter 821. Change of Heart. Qin Chongqing, Qin Sheng, and Qin Ran had thought that even if they met again, they would not have too much emotional fluctuations. After all, when they had separated, they were just children. Now, more than 20 years had passed. However, in the end, they still underestimated the power of family and blood. Even if the two generations had been separated for more than 20 years, they would still be so excited when they reunited again. After an unknown period of time, Qin Chongqing finally recovered his emotions. He was not as excited as he had been at the beginning. After all, he was an old man who was nearly 70 years old. When he was young, he had experienced a lot of storms and waves. During these years, he had lived in seclusion on Mount Wutai and had seen and broken many things. Naturally, he could look at the people and things in this world with the calmest state of mind. At this time, Qin Ran wiped away her tears. She was no longer so nervous and excited. She looked at her eldest uncle happily. He was both strange and familiar at the same time. What was strange was that he seemed to be an ordinary old man who was nearly 70 years old. He was not much different from other old people. The biggest difference was that he was a monk. What was familiar was the feeling of family, which surpassed time and distance. There was no need to explain anything. "Eldest uncle, you are old," Qin Ran said unconsciously. She had imagined her eldest uncle's appearance many times and guessed that he might be an old man who was past his prime. However, when she really saw this old man, Qin Ran was still a little shocked. After all, in her memory, her eldest uncle was a high-spirited young man. Moreover, she had seen many pictures of her eldest uncle when he was young. He was not any worse than her old man. Qin Chongqing said calmly, "I am just an old man. So many years have passed. You have all grown up. How can I not be old?" Yes, so many years had passed. The children had all grown up. The adults had also become old people. No one was an opponent of time. They could only follow his footsteps and move forward slowly. At this time, Qin Chongqing looked at Qin Sheng, who was not far away. Compared with Qin Ran, who was still so beautiful and moving, Qin Sheng seemed to have changed more. After all, Qin Sheng was younger when he left. At that time, Qin Sheng was mischievous and cute. Now, Qin Sheng was already a mature and experienced adult. Qin Changxing had seen countless people since he was young, so it was easy for him to see this. Sheng Qin Changxing said. He had already known that Qin Sheng had been taken away by the old master and disappeared for more than 20 years. He did not return to Beijing until recently. At that time, Qin Sheng was relatively young, and after so many years had passed, he probably did not have a strong sense of identity with the Qin family. As Qin Changxing thought, although Qin Sheng had returned to the Qin family and the old man in front of him was also his eldest uncle, Qin Sheng did not have a strong feeling for the old man when he returned to the Qin family. Naturally, it was the same for Qin Changxing. Just now, he was moved because of this kind of scene. Moreover, the biggest reason he came to find his eldest uncle this time was to ask him to go back to Jing City. So his focus was not here. It did not mean that Qin Sheng was a cold-blooded animal. Even if they had been separated for more than 20 years and did not have too many memories, he would still feel the same. Therefore, at this time, Qin Sheng had calmed down, but he still said sincerely, "Eldest uncle." Qin Changxing nodded slightly and replied, "Well, Shenger has also grown up. You have all grown up. Seeing that you are all well, I, as an old man, am relieved." Qin Sheng did not know what to say next. He just looked at his sister, Qin Ran, and at the same time, he asked her with his eyes what to say. After all, they did not have too much time to stay here. If they could persuade his eldest uncle to go back to Jing City as soon as possible, that would be the best. Originally, Qin Ran wanted to continue to talk about the old days with her eldest uncle and Yaya. However, she could not wait to ask her eldest uncle to go back. Consequently, she could only bite the bullet and said, "Eldest uncle, this time, Qin Ran and I actually came to Wutai Mountain to..." Before Qin Ran finished her words, Qin Changxing waved his hand and interrupted her. Ran, I already know what you want to say. I already know what has happened in Beijing, so you don't have to say it. Qin Ran was a little surprised. Eldest uncle, you already know? Originally, she thought that her eldest uncle did not know, so she wanted to tell him in detail. However, it did not occur to her that her eldest uncle would say that he already knew. This made Qin Ran somewhat surprised. Then she figured out, although her eldest uncle lived in Wutai Mountain, he was not ignorant of what was happening in the world. Moreover, such a big thing had happened. How could he not know? How can I not know? Even if I don't want to know, someone will let me know, Qin Changxing said quietly. In fact, this was indeed the case. When the Qin family was in trouble, someone had informed him immediately, although he did not know who was behind it. Since her eldest uncle already knew, the rest of the things would be easy to talk about. Qin Ran said bluntly, "Eldest uncle, our Qin family has reached a critical moment. Now that something has happened to my father, the Qin family must have a helmsman. Otherwise, the family property that the Qin family has accumulated for so many years can only be trampled on by others. Now, only eldest aunt is struggling to support the Qin family. Qin Sheng and I are just doing a little bit of help. Those people do not take us seriously at all. Therefore, this time, Qin Sheng and I actually came to Wutai Mountain to ask you to come back to Jing City to take charge of the overall situation. In this way, our Qin family can tide over the difficulties this time. In this way, the Qin family will not be destroyed in a day." Qin Sheng echoed as he said, "Eldest uncle, please come back and do your best to turn the tide. The Qin family needs you. I believe that you will not forget the Qin family." Qin Changxing smiled very lightly as he said, Ran, sure, I know what happened to the Qin family. I also know the purpose of your visit this time. However, I'm just an old man who is over 60 years old. I have long stopped caring about these trifles. Now, I only want to comprehend the truth of Buddhism. Even if I go back, what can I do? Who can really take me seriously? Moreover, there is still your eldest aunt and you in the Qin family. I believe in your ability and also believe that you can help the Qin family tide over the difficulties. These are what you should experience and must experience. Only after experiencing these can you really grow up. The Qin family will not really collapse. Qin Ran was very shocked as she said, "Eldest uncle, do you mean that you will not go back with us?" Qin Ran was very shocked. She had already thought that this might be the result. However, when she heard this answer, she still found it hard to accept. It seemed that the eldest uncle was their only life-saving straw. Only by grasping this straw tightly could the Qin family not lose. Qin Changxing looked at the two of them and continued as he said, "I am just an ordinary monk. How can I have any great ability? Even if I go back, I will not be of any help. I will only add to the trouble, so I will not go back." Qin Ran gnashed her teeth as she said, "Eldest uncle, why are you so cruel? Are you just going to watch the Qin family collapse in this way?" Qin Changxing sat on the steps under the shade of the tree, casually as he said, "If the Qin family could collapse, it would have collapsed long ago. Why hasn't the Qin family collapsed? That is because your grandfather and your father have all experienced hardships. None of them were more dangerous than this." However, the Qin family still persisted until now. Moreover, it is getting better and better. Now that the Qin family has you, I believe that you can also do the same. As long as the Qin family still has descendants, the Qin family will not collapse. Even if it collapses, it can stand up again. Qin Ran did not want to give up like this. She continued to beg bitterly as she said, "Uncle." Qin Sheng did not say anything else. He could tell that the first uncle's attitude was very firm. No matter what they said today, it seemed that the first uncle would not leave Mount Wutai. Qin Changxing waved his hand as he said, Ran, you don't have to say anything else. I will not go back. I can't go back. You'd better leave. If you're still willing to visit this old man in the future, you are also welcome to come." He looked somewhat tired. Qin Ran was still unwilling to give up. She said, "Uncle, are you really not willing to go back? Are you really so cruel? Are you worthy of the Qin family? Are you worthy of my grandfather, my father, auntie, and us?" Qin Changxing was still unmoved. This time, he was really unmoved. Not to mention Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. Even if Zhao Anji came in person, he would still be the same. If he wanted to go back, he would not wait for them to come to find him. As soon as he knew that the Qin family was in trouble, he had already gone back. Seeing the first uncle's attitude, Qin Ran was somewhat disheartened. She really did not know what to say, nor did she know what to say to make the first uncle agree. She could only cry silently. Was the Qin family really doomed this time? Qin Sheng also did not know what to say. He had no choice but to walk over and comfort his sister. "Sister, since the first uncle is not willing to go back, let's not make things difficult for him. Maybe he has his own difficulties. Let's go back. As long as the Qin family has us, it will not fall." Upon hearing this, Qin Changxing said casually, "Qin Sheng, take good care of your sister and your auntie. You are the only man in the Qin family. At this time, you must shoulder this responsibility. I believe that you have this ability. You will not let us down." Everyone could say these words. After Qin Sheng heard it, he was not touched at all. He did not want to say anything more. If he had known that the first uncle was so determined, he would not have come to Mount Wutai. "Sister, let's go." Qin Sheng supported Qin Ran and said somewhat worriedly. Seeing his sister like this, Qin Sheng's attitude became more resolute. No matter what difficulties they would encounter in the future, he would lead the Qin family through them. Qin Ran also did not want to continue staying here. It did not occur to her that after the excitement of their reunion at the beginning had passed, what she got in return was the first uncle's attitude. Qin Ran was very disappointed. However, she still said politely, "First uncle, we are leaving. We will come to see you in the future. You should take care of yourself." After that, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were ready to leave. Qin Changxing sighed bitterly. He had long known that the meeting would be like this. Consequently, he had taken the initiative to escape from all this. Who knew that he still could not escape? Forget it. After all, they were his nephew and niece. After all, he was born in the Qin family. Consequently, Qin Changxing suddenly said, "Qin Sheng, wait a minute. I have something to say to you." Qin Sheng and Qin Ran stopped subconsciously. They turned their heads and looked at Qin Changxing over there. They did not know what the first uncle meant. Could it be that he had changed his mind? Chapter 822. Although Qin Sheng and Qin Ran had expected such a result from the very beginning, after all, they had thought of all kinds of possibilities and results before they set off, they were still very disappointed when they got the first uncle's final answer. After all, they had pinned the last hope of the Qin family on the first uncle. They had thought that as long as the first uncle went back, the Qin family's predicament would be solved easily. Even if he could not solve the current trouble of the Qin family, he could at least relieve the current pressure of the Qin family. However, things did not go as they wished. The first uncle refused. What should they do? They had no choice. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran had already accepted their fate. They could not go back with the first uncle. What was the point of that? Moreover, they had expected such a result from the beginning. If it was really the result, they could only continue to bear the burden. As long as they were still there, the Qin family would not collapse. When they were extremely disappointed and ready to leave, Qin Chongqing suddenly stopped Qin Sheng, which made them somewhat confused. They thought that the first uncle had changed his mind. Qin Ran could not help but feel somewhat excited. However, Qin Sheng was somewhat puzzled. Qin Ran said in a hurry, "First uncle, did you change your mind?" Qin Chongqing shook his head directly and said, "No, I still won't go back. You need to face these things on your own. I just have something to say to Qin Sheng." Upon hearing this, Qin Ran, who had been very happy just now, fell to the bottom in an instant. She had thought that the first uncle had changed his mind. It did not occur to her that he was still so cruel. In that case, what could the first uncle talk to Qin Sheng about? Just when Qin Ran was puzzled, Qin Chongqing said to Qin Sheng, "Qin Sheng, follow me into the house." Qin Sheng looked at his sister, Qin Ran, and did not know what the first uncle meant. Qin Ran did not have any hope now. No matter what the first uncle said, he was their first uncle. She could only nod and let Qin Sheng follow him into the house. The meditation room, where Qin Chongqing lived, was not far away. After Qin Sheng followed Qin Chongqing into the room, Qin Chongqing directly closed the door. The layout of the meditation room was very simple. There were several tables, chairs, and a wooden bed. There were no other decorations. Qin Chongqing did not waste too much of Qin Sheng's time and said directly, "Qin Sheng, do you know what I want to say to you?" "Eldest uncle, I don't know. But I know that since you called me in, you must have something important to tell me. I believe that you are not a cold-hearted person. Now that the Qin family is in such a crisis, it is impossible for you not to be anxious. It's just that you have something difficult to say, so you don't want to go back," Qin Sheng said honestly. He did not hide anything at all, because he could completely trust the man in front of him. Moreover, in front of this man, there was no need for him to lie. Qin Chongqing nodded silently and said, "Well, not bad. You're more mature and steady than I thought. It seems that your father should be very confident in you. Otherwise, he would not have accepted such a result so calmly. No wonder he did not come to see me before the accident." Qin Sheng did not quite understand this. He looked at his eldest uncle, Qin Chongqing, with a puzzled look on his face. He felt that his eldest uncle's words were too confusing. Out from Qin 2 of 4 Qin, Chun Ming Qin Chongqing started to analyze the situation for Qin Sheng. This was also something that he could not tell others. Now that he was telling Qin Sheng, it was because Qin Sheng was the successor of the Qin family. Only by knowing these things, Qin Sheng would know how to face difficulties. Qin Sheng answered honestly, "I don't know." "That's right. If you knew, you wouldn't have come to me," Qin Chongqing said half-jokingly. He did not want Qin Sheng to be too nervous. He said, "Relax, don't be so nervous. I won't eat you. I'm just an ordinary monk. To say the least, I'm still your first uncle." Qin Sheng forced a smile. There was nothing wrong with what Qin Chongqing said. However, he did not have much contact with his first uncle after all. Their previous contact was when they were young. He had forgotten all about it. Now his first uncle was just a little better than a stranger to him. The reason why I can't go back is not that I don't want to. Since last year until now, I have met countless people. All of their attention is focused on the storm of the Qin family. I thought that I could take care of myself. I thought that there would not be any turbulence in my heart. However, I overestimated myself. So I know that it is meaningless for me to stay on Mount Wutai. Qin Changxing dropped a bombshell on Qin Sheng as soon as he opened his mouth. After Qin Sheng heard that, he was shocked. He stared at his first uncle, dumbfounded. He did not understand what his first uncle meant. Could it be that his first uncle already had the idea of going back, but he could not go back now? Did he guess it right? Qin Changxing continued. You may have guessed something. Just like what you guessed at this time, if I don't go back, others will only think that I, Qin Changxing, am an ingrate. Moreover, I have been practicing in Mount Wutai for more than 20 years, but I have not really been able to stay still in the 8 winds. It also shows that it is indeed not suitable for me to stay here. My fate in a mortal world is not over yet. I am entangled with worldly affairs. Instead of contradicting myself, it is better to completely solve these worldly affairs and go back to Mount Wutai. Qin Sheng could not help but say, First uncle, do you mean that you can go back to Beijing? Yes, I can go back. I can go back. The Qin family is my root. How can I forget it? Could it be that I, Qin Changxing, am such a coward that I would watch others bully my Qin family? Qin Changxing was no longer as polite as before. He said in a somewhat tough tone, but I can't go back now. If I go back now, it will add fuel to the fire of the Qin family. Not only will it not alleviate the Qin family situation, but it will also be counterproductive. Do you know why? Qin Sheng said subconsciously, I don't know. Then why? Qin Changxing had never told anyone about these things. Even when the old man came to look for him, he only said that he could not go back. He was not willing to tell Qin Sheng about many specific things. However, he did not want to tell Qin Sheng about it. He could tell Qin Sheng everything without any worries. Qin Changxing said slowly, because most of the people who are against the Qin family now have interacted with me in the past. They know me better than anyone else. If I go back, they probably have already predicted what I will do. I only have a few cards in my hand. Once I use them at this time, it will only make many people feel conflicted and disgusted. So I can't go back. Qin Sheng frowned and shook his head as he said, First uncle, I still don't understand. Qin Changxing said with a smile, It's right that you don't understand. It would be strange if you understood. You only need to know that I can go back, and I will go back, but not now. Do you understand? This was the answer that Qin Sheng wanted to hear the most. After hearing this, Qin Sheng was instantly pleasantly surprised. As long as his uncle said this, it would be enough. It meant that his uncle would go back sooner or later, just not now. Maybe when his uncle felt that perhaps when his first uncle felt that the time was right, he would naturally go back. At that time, no matter what the Qin family situation was, his first uncle would solve it easily. Qin Changxing said thoughtfully, Maybe this is the reason why your father did not look for me. He also knows that it is not suitable for me to go back now, because he sees higher and farther than many people. His younger brother was not as simple as him. After all, over these years, he had come from nothing to where he was today. How could he be simple? Moreover, even he did not help much. Moreover, he admired his younger brother's handling of several crises. Although Qin Changxing said so, Qin Sheng's focus was not on this. He felt that as long as his first uncle could go back, it would be fine. At that time, with his first uncle's help, the Qin family would definitely be able to get through the crisis. Qin Changxing seemed to have guessed Qin Sheng's thoughts. He replied, Qin Sheng, don't be too happy. I just said that it is possible. If the situation does not change, I don't know when I will go back. If I don't go back, will the Qin family be like this? Qin Sheng hurriedly said, Uncle, I didn't mean that. Qin Sheng, something happened to your father. Now that I am not here, you are the only man in the Qin family. Now that you have encountered these problems, you have to face them and solve them. This is a process that a man must go through when he grows up. How do you know that you can handle it? When your grandfather had an accident in Beijing, didn't he also handle it alone? The accident that happened more than 20 years ago, when your grandfather was not here, didn't your father and I also handle it? Now, it is your turn in the Qin family. Qin Changxing said earnestly. He did not want Qin Sheng to pin his hope on him. That was the most terrible thing. Qin Sheng let out a long breath and said seriously, Uncle, I know. Qin Sheng, you are the future of the Qin family and the hope of the Qin family. We all hope that you can grow up and rise. At that time, we can rest assured and hand over the Qin family to you. Otherwise, even if we handle the crisis this time, what about the next time? The Qin family will fall sooner or later. So don't be afraid of difficulties. You have to face them actively. Only when you solve these difficulties can you make everyone fear you. Qin Changxing could not help but say these words. This was the Qin Sheng that he hoped to see. Qin Sheng recovered from his emotions just now. He looked directly at his uncle and said, "Uncle, don't worry. Even if you don't come back, even if the old man is not here, I will not run away from anything. I will definitely do my best, regardless of whether I fail or not." When Qin Changxing heard this, he said with appreciation, "Okay, I believe you. Just do it. I believe your father is also waiting. Now, I'm also waiting. Don't worry about failure. Even if you fail, so what? Because you still have us. But you can't let us down. Uncle, don't worry. I will definitely not let you down," Qin Sheng said firmly. Qin Changxing said contentedly, "Then just do it." Qin Sheng nodded heavily. When Qin Sheng was about to leave, Qin Changxing stopped him again. This time, he did not say too much to Qin Sheng. He only gave Qin Sheng 3 ways to contact him. When Qin Sheng asked who they were, Qin Changxing directly told him that they were the guardian families of the Qin family, and it was time for him to return the favor. Qin Sheng was more or less confused. But in the end, he left directly because he would figure out what was going on sooner or later. Chapter 8:23. Chapter 5:23. Introduction, Persuasion, and Refusal. This was a meeting between 2 generations. In the beginning, they avoided each other. Then, they became extremely excited, and then they became extremely disappointed. Now, everyone was finally happy. Qin Changxing and Qin Sheng, the 2 men of the Qin family, had completed the inheritance and handover. Qin Changxing had made everything clear. He could not leave Mount Wutai at the moment, but it did not mean that he would not go back in the future. Qin Sheng also got a satisfactory answer. That was this eldest uncle would always be behind the Qin family. It was just that he needed to face and deal with these difficulties now. After coming out of the meditation room where his eldest uncle lived, Qin Sheng looked much better than before. Qin Changxing stood at the door and watched him leave. Qin Ran was still waiting in the yard. Qin Sheng walked to the center of the yard and said to Qin Ran, "Sister, let's go." Qin Ran did not ask him what his eldest uncle had said to her. She just looked back at him and wanted to say goodbye to him. However, she was disappointed and could only leave with Qin Sheng. Outside the yard, Chang Baji and the others were waiting there. When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran saw them, they said directly, "Go back to Beijing." Chang Baji and the others had no objection. They took action in a hurry. Although they did not know what the process was, the eldest uncle of the Qin family did not come out with them. Obviously, he had refused Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. This made the situation of the Qin family not change at all. They were also worried. When the Qin family's motorcade left Wutai Mountain and returned to Beijing, an off-road vehicle that had been secretly watching them also returned to Beijing. However, they did not see the man they expected, so they immediately reported the result to their master. On the way back to Beijing, Qin Ran finally could not help but ask, "Qin Sheng, what did eldest uncle talk to you about?" "Sister, actually nothing. Eldest uncle just told me about his difficulties. He said that he had been away from Beijing for more than 20 years. If he suddenly went back at this time, not only would he not be able to help, but he would also cause trouble for the Qin family. So he cannot go back." Qin Sheng said selectively. Naturally, he would not tell Qin Ran everything. Qin Ran said impatiently, "I think he just doesn't want to go back and deal with these troubles. Forget it. If he doesn't want to go back, then he won't go back. After all, he's been away for so many years." Qin Ran was fine. She didn't complain too much. She was just a little disappointed, but she was still willing to face the upcoming difficulties positively. She didn't give up because of her uncle's rejection. Qin Sheng continued, "Sister, you have to understand eldest uncle. Maybe it's just that it's not the right time yet. However, although eldest uncle is unwilling to go back, he has given us an important resource. Maybe it can help us turn the situation around. Qin Ran asked curiously, "What resources?" "The Guardian clans. Uncle gave me the contact information of 3 Guardian clans." This time, Qin Sheng did not hide anything and said straightforwardly. Qin Ran said in shock, "Our Qin clan actually has 3 Guardian clans? It seems that even the old man doesn't know of their existence. How did Uncle know of their existence? How did he even have their contact information?" Qin Ran was clearly in disbelief. She never thought that there would be a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. Although she had failed to convince her uncle to return to the capital, he had given them the 3 Guardian clans' contact details. This was equivalent to handing the Guardian clans over to them. As for how they would be used in the future, that was up to them. Qin Sheng guessed, "I don't know either. Maybe it's a foreshadowing left by my grandfather." He could only guess in this way. Otherwise, why did the old man not know and only eldest uncle knew? Hence, this further confirmed his judgment. It was not that eldest uncle did not want to come back. It was just that he couldn't come back at this stage. Qin Ran thought about it and agreed. It seemed that this was the only reasonable explanation. Otherwise, why did eldest uncle know? However, her focus now was not on this. What she was concerned about now was who the 3 Guardian clans were and how they would use the Guardian clans to help the Qin clan. Hence, Qin Ran couldn't wait to ask, "Qin Sheng, what are you going to do? When will you contact them?" Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, "We'll talk about it when we get back." When they left Beijing, there was a storm, lightning, and thunder. But when they went back from Mount Wutai, it was sunny and cloudless. It seemed to be a good omen for the Qin family. They hoped that the Qin family could go from the storm to the sunny day smoothly. When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran rushed back from Mount Wutai, Zhao Anji, who was far away in Beijing, was called back to the Zhao clan by her brother. In this special period, the Zhao clan did not avoid arousing suspicion, which meant that they still had some confidence. However, Zhao Anji's brother did not want to help the Qin clan and Zhao Anji get through this difficult time. Instead, he wanted to persuade Zhao Anji to stay away from trouble and get involved in this muddy water. Zhao Anji's brother was called Zhao Zhenjuan. This man, who used to be a governor of a border region, had long since retired. He did not even strive to go to the second line to play his remaining role. This had a lot to do with his character. He did not have much ambition. If he really had that kind of ambition, it was not impossible for him to go further back then. He did not go to the second line because he took the initiative to keep a low profile. What would Zhao Zhenjuan think when such a big thing happened to the Qin clan? No matter what, Zhao Anji was his biological sister. Although this biological sister was the daughter-in-law of the Qin clan, she was still a woman of the Zhao clan after all. Moreover, the relationship between Zhao Anji and the Qin clan was relatively special. Now, Zhao Anji took the initiative to come back from Canada to help the Qin clan. Now, she became the pillar of the Qin clan, which made Zhao Zhenjuan very worried. On the one hand, he was worried about the safety of Zhao Anji and his niece. After all, the opponent of the Qin clan was too strong. On the other hand, he was worried that the Zhao clan would be innocently implicated. That was why they met today. Since Zhao Anji came back, she was almost always busy with the affairs of the Qin clan. Therefore, she rarely visited the Zhao clan. She only called them occasionally. This was also something that Zhao Zhenjuan was not very satisfied with. In these years, he had not treated the mother and daughter badly. Therefore, after Zhao Anji came back today, Zhao Zhenjuan did not look good, which made Zhao Anji a little unhappy. "I didn't come back to be bullied." Moreover, he was also an old man in his 50s or 60s. Although Zhao Anji looked unhappy, he was her brother after all, so she spoke politely, "Brother, if you have something to say, just say it. We are siblings. There is no such estrangement between us." Hearing this, Zhao Zhenjuan, who had a head full of white hair, replied bluntly, "It's not a big deal. I just want to discuss something with you. It is also for the sake of you and your daughter." "What is it?" Zhao Anji seemed to have already guessed what this stubborn brother wanted to say. She asked with a faint smile. Zhao Zhenjuan narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment before he slowly said, "Anji, take Yaya back to Canada. It is safer there than in China, and it is more suitable for you and your daughter. Now, Beijing is already a troublesome place. It is too dangerous for you and your daughter to stay here. Go back." After hearing this, Zhao Anji burst into laughter and stared at her brother with a puzzled look. Zhao Zhenjun was a little annoyed by Zhao Anji's laughter and asked, "What are you laughing at?" "Brother, I'm not laughing at anything. I am just laughing at your inexplicable words. How can Beijing be a troublesome place? How can it be dangerous for us to stay in China? This is my hometown," Zhao Anji said as if she was joking. Zhao Zhenjun said angrily, "Do you really not understand what I'm talking about? Or are you playing dumb? Such a big thing happened to the Qin family. Now everyone is watching the Qin family. Isn't it dangerous for you to stay in the Qin family? Now Qin Chang'an is in trouble. Qin Changxing, that coward, is far away in Mount Wutai and is useless. You are the only woman left to support the Qin family. If they don't target you, who else will they target?" Zhao Anji already knew what her brother wanted to say, but she deliberately played dumb. At this time, she replied seriously, "Brother, although something happened to the Qin family, it has not collapsed yet. There's not only me in the Qin family, but also Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. It will not be so easily defeated." "Are you kidding? They are just children. What can they do? The Qin family depends on you now. How can you face those enemies?" Zhao Zhenjun retorted. Zhao Anji said calmly, "Brother, I know you're doing this for my own good. But how can I leave the Qin family at this time? If I really leave, how can I face everyone in the Qin family? No matter what, I am still the daughter-in-law of the Qin family. Since the man of the Qin family is not here, let me, the woman, take his place." "You? Stop daydreaming. Don't you know the situation of the Qin family?" Zhao Zhenjun sneered. Zhao Anji did not want to ask the Zhao family for help. It was fine if the Zhao family did not help her. Now they poured cold water on her, which made her very unhappy. She knew her brother's temper very well. She said directly, "Brother, I think you are pretending to care about us. You are really afraid of getting the Zhao family into trouble." "Zhao Anji, what do you mean? My kindness is bad. I am your brother. So what if I care about you? Should I watch you and your mother get into trouble?" Zhao Zhenjun was so angry that he stood up directly. Zhao Anji did not intend to give in. She smiled and stood up, saying, "Brother, thank you for caring about us. Since I'm married into the Qin family, I am a woman of the Qin family. If something happens to the Qin family, I am responsible. I will not leave, and I can't leave. Brother, don't worry. I will not get the Zhao family into trouble." "Zhao Anji, why are you so stubborn? I am doing this for your own good," Zhao Zhenjun shouted helplessly. Zhao Anji chuckled and said, "I know. Thank you, brother. If there is nothing else, I will leave first." Zhao Zhenjun was still thinking about how to continue to persuade Zhao Anji. But at this time, Zhao Anji had already stood up and left. She did not want to continue to stay here. She had already expected such a situation. It was not her brother who said this. Her best friends also called her to persuade her, but she still insisted on her decision and would not regret it. Chapter 824. A Solution? When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. This seemed to be the case for any big family. This was not surprising. It was everyone's nature to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Just like the law of the jungle, it was also the rules of the game in this world. In the end, there would not be much change. During today's meeting, Zhao Zhenjun was truly concerned about the situation of his sister, Zhao Anji, and his niece. However, he was also worried that the Zhao family would be implicated. The two matters were not related. Zhao Anji could understand, but she couldn't do that. Why did she choose to return to the country at this time? It was not because of Qin Chang'an's long talk in Canada that time, but the choice she made after weighing the pros and cons. If the Qin family fell, they would lose their real backer. Moreover, she would be too ashamed to meet the ancestors of the Qin family. Although the Qin family owed her, she was the daughter-in-law of the Qin family. Since she married into the Qin family, she was a woman of the Qin family. After Zhao Anji left the Zhao family, Zhao Zhenjun was so angry that he couldn't do anything. After all, this was the Qin family's business. No matter how he persuaded his sister, if she didn't want to do it, there was nothing he could do. The only thing he could do was to draw a line with them, in case the Zhao family was really involved. On her way back, Zhao Anji had received a call from Qin Sheng and Qin Ran, saying that they would be home soon. They asked if Zhao Anji was at home. Zhao Anji said that she was also on her way back, but she did not ask about the result of the trip because she had already guessed the answer. Since yesterday, in order to avoid being in the limelight, everyone in the Qin family had moved out of the Qin family Sihiyuan in Dongchang district. After all, that place had become the focus of everyone's attention. The Qin family did not want to be exposed to the public and the media, so they moved out temporarily. The Qin family had a lot of real estate in Sizhou City, and most of them were mansions and manors. Even the Sihiyuan in Dongqing district was not the only one. After all, the Qin family was not short of money. They invested a lot in these things, and the rich Qin family directly invested in banks and real estate companies. Originally, Qin Ran wanted to live in the villa in the north of Yuyuan Embark. However, Zhao Anji felt that living in the city was too eye-catching, so she simply moved to the villa in Xishan. Besides, the villa in Xishan was bigger and could accommodate so many people. Moreover, not many people knew about it. Taking a step back, if they came to the city to run errands, they could stay in Yu Yuantan's villa. In this way, both sides would not be delayed, and they would not have to go to Xishan every day. In the end, Qin Sheng and the others had no objections and followed Zhao Anji's arrangement. In the capital city, where the emperor lived, there was no shortage of high-ranking officials, nobles, and rich people. Therefore, there was no shortage of high-end mansions. The Qin family's villa was one of the largest in the entire neighborhood. Now, it had been cleaned up. When they arrived home, Zhao Anji was already waiting in the living room. The overall decoration style of the villa was in the style of an American manor, which had something to do with Qin Chang'an's taste. He liked a calm style, which might be too mature for young people. Therefore, Qin Ran always complained that the old man's taste was not good enough. Therefore, most of the time, she preferred to live in the apartment in the World Trade Center. It was not until Qin Sheng returned to Beijing that she moved back. Such a big thing had happened, and everyone was so busy. Therefore, everyone looked a little exhausted, as if they could collapse at any time. After a simple greeting, Zhao Anji looked at Qin Ran and Qin Sheng and said, "How is it? Did I guess it right? Your uncle must have rejected it, right?" Qin Sheng and Qin Ran did not know how to answer. It seemed that the one who knew their uncle best was still Annie. After all, they had been husband and wife for so many years, they already knew each other very well. However, Qin Sheng still replied on behalf of Uncle. "Annie, Uncle has his own difficulties. It's not that he doesn't want to come back, but he can't come back at this stage. When the time is right, he will come back." Zhao Anji did not believe Qin Sheng's excuses. She smiled and said, "Do you even believe that? 20 years ago, he was so useless. I didn't expect that he would still be like this now. The thing that I, Zhao Anji, regret the most in my life is marrying him." Then Zhao Anji sighed and said, "Forget it. If he doesn't come back, then he won't come back. Anyway, it's useless for him to come back. We have to face these things on our own." She had completely lost hope in Qin Changxing. Qin Sheng did not say anything else. He did not mention the Qin family was a guardian family. He planned to contact those people and make sure that they could help the Qin family. At that time, he would tell Annie. He had already discussed this with his sister on the way. Qin Ran looked at Zhao Anji and said, "Auntie, now that uncle is not coming back, what should we do?" Zhao Anji frowned and said, "What else can we do? Let's solve the problem in front of us first. First, find a way to find out about your father. I will find a way to contact my friends and old friends. You should also try to find a way on your side. Second, prepare for the shareholders' meeting. At this stage, I'm afraid that we can't intervene in the affairs of the Chang and group. I don't suggest that you intervene. Let's wait and see. However, the shareholders' meeting is the only chance for us to control the Chang and group. If we miss this opportunity, the Chang and group will have nothing to do with the Qin family in the future. So we have to do our best." Qin Sheng and Zhao Anji had the same idea. He echoed. Auntie is right. Sixth uncle will definitely do something in the Chong and group, but we can't do anything now. The two confidants of the old man have been taken away. We can only endure for a while and wait for the shareholders' meeting. As for the old man, my sister and I will try our best to find a way. After confirming these things, the short family meeting was over. Zhao Anji went out to deal with something. Qin Ran rested in the room for a while. She was tired from the long journey and didn't sleep well last night. Now she was somewhat sleepy. However, Qin Sheng received a call from Song Ruyu. Song Ruyu asked him to meet her, which somewhat surprised him. At this time, the Song family should be avoiding the Qin family. He knew this very well when he went to the Song family that day. It was so sudden that Song Ruyu chose to meet him at this time. Was it the Song family's idea or Song Ruyu's? No matter what, Qin Sheng still chose to meet Song Ruyu. Now, as long as there was a slim chance, Qin Sheng would not miss it. He wanted to seize such an opportunity. Maybe Song Ruyu was the key to open the door of the Qin family. Song Ruyu knew that Qin Sheng was in the West Mountain, so she drove there alone. Maybe she knew that Qin Sheng must be exhausted these days, so she didn't let him enter the city. The place where they met was by the river. It was already evening. After all, there had just been a rainstorm and the weather was not very hot. The breeze by the river was very cool. It would be more comfortable if they prepared some beer and barbecue. Unfortunately, Qin Sheng was not in the mood for that. Song Ruyu arrived early, even earlier than Qin Sheng, who lived nearby. Today, Song Ruyu was dressed casually. She sat quietly on the bench by the river. The breeze blew her hair and long dress, which made her look beautiful. She blended in with the surrounding environment. Qin Sheng did not want to disturb her. In the end, Qin Sheng walked over and slowly sat next to Song Ruyu. Chang Baji and the others scattered around to protect Qin Sheng. They were still so careful, not willing to relax their vigilance at any time. Song Ruyu said gently, "You're here." She was not as cold as she used to be. Qin Sheng replied politely, "Isn't it too sudden for you to choose to meet me at this time? If the old master knows about it, he will probably teach you a lesson. After all, I was rejected at the door of the Song family the other day. If your brother knows about it, he may punish me." Ignoring Qin Sheng's words, Song Ruyu replied casually, "They are them, and I am me. We are friends, aren't we?" Friends? When Qin Sheng heard these two words, he suddenly felt how heavy these two words were. At this time, how many friends could help him? It was not that his friends were unwilling to help him, but that none of them could help him. Who could reach such a high level? Hearing this word, Qin Sheng felt a little strange. "Yes, we are friends. I know you care about me, but who can help me?" Qin Sheng said with some self-mockery. He no longer targeted Song Ruyu. After all, the fact that Song Ruyu had come to meet him was already the greatest respect for him. Song Ruyu turned to look at Qin Sheng. Her bright eyes seemed to have an inexplicable magic that could penetrate people's hearts. Qin Sheng was a little embarrassed to look at her. Song Ruyu said slowly, "Although I can't help you much, you can tell me as much as I can. This has nothing to do with the Song family. It's just a relationship between us." If Qin Sheng left the Song family, Song Ruyu would have no power at all. Therefore, although Qin Sheng was moved by what Song Ruyu had said, he still told her the truth. "Ruyu, I know you want to help me, but it's such a big thing. What can you do? So I appreciate your kindness. I'm already very satisfied to have a friend like you. How do you know that I can't help you? Even if I can't, I can give you some advice. Have you forgotten what I do?" Song Ruyu was a little angry at Qin Sheng's male chauvinism, but she still said so. Qin Sheng was a little amused as he said, "What suggestion? If it were you, what would you do?" He didn't take Song Ruyu's words seriously, even though he knew Song Ruyu's employer. Therefore, he decided to listen to her first. Song Ruyu stared at Qin Sheng in silence. No one knew what she was thinking. Qin Sheng couldn't help but say, "If you have any suggestions, just tell me." Song Ruyu changed her attitude and said seriously, "Actually, I've studied the Qin family for a long time and made several countermeasures for different situations. The current situation of the Qin family can be said to be the worst among my predictions. Even so, there is still a way out. Regardless of Song Ruyu's next suggestion, Qin Sheng was shocked by her words. It seemed that he didn't take Song Ryu seriously at all. Battlefield Literature. Chapter 825. Between the two, it was not that Qin Sheng didn't take Song Ryu seriously. It had nothing to do with Song Ryu's identity. It was just that ordinary people couldn't solve the crisis of the Qin family this time. What could Song Ryu do? However, at this time, Qin Sheng was quite moved that Song Ryu still attached so much importance to him when the Song family was in danger. Moreover, Song Ryu's words made Qin Sheng take her seriously. Qin Sheng put away his contempt and looked at Song Ryu seriously. He asked in surprise, "Did you say that you've studied the Qin family's affairs?" Song Ryu slowly stood up and walked to the crystal-clear river. The sound of the river flowing from the west to the east was very pleasant. She casually stroked her hair and said with a profound look in her eyes, "Didn't I tell you just now that you're a god? Have you forgotten what I do for a living? I study all kinds of policies and systems. What happened to the Qin family is not an isolated case. Since last year, when the state tightened the policy and increased the supervision of the financial industry, a series of things have happened. The Qin family and the Chong and group are not exceptions, but expected." Song Ryu told the truth. She already knew about it, and she knew more insider information than most people. Maybe many people had also guessed why the country had done this. Because no one or company could be above the national interest. In front of the national interest, no one was important. Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, "I know all about it. I've also heard about it from others. Before the Qin family got into trouble, an old man also told me about the Qin family's problems. He also said something that I still remember deeply. That is, if a company wants to survive for a long time, there's only one way, which is to advance and retreat with the country." After hearing Qin Sheng's words, Song Ryu murmured to herself, "Advance and retreat with the country? I've also heard of this saying, and my teacher admires it very much. So, you should have an idea about the Qin family's matter, right?" Song Ryu's words were too general. Qin Sheng didn't know whether he was stupid or not. Anyway, he still didn't understand what Song Ryu meant. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "To be honest, I still don't understand. If you have something to say, just say it." Song Ryu was not surprised by Qin Sheng's reaction. She smiled and said, "Maybe it's because the onlooker sees the game more clearly than the person involved. In summer, the gentle breeze by the river at night was really cool." Song Ryu gestured for Qin Sheng to walk by the river with her. Qin Sheng did not refuse. He stood up happily and followed Song Ryu's pace. The two of them walked unhurriedly. At this time, Song Ryu answered, "What I want to say is actually very simple. If the Qin family wants to get through this crisis, they have to abandon the rook to save the general. It depends on what the Qin family is willing to do. Do you understand?" Qin Sheng frowned and said, "Abandon the rook to save the king." Song Ryu nodded affirmatively. "Yes, sacrifice the rook to save the king. If you want to protect Uncle Qin, you have to give up the Qin family's interests in the Chong department. If you want to protect the Chong department, you have to give up Uncle Qin. If you don't want to give up anything and still want to protect everything, I can tell you clearly that it's impossible." "Why?" Qin Sheng asked confusedly. The Qin family was naturally willing to see such a result. If the Qin family could be saved, the old master would also be saved. Song Ryu didn't try to be polite this time. She replied, "Because if you do that and no one is willing to help the Qin family, you will not only be challenging everyone, but also the national machine. If the Qin family passes the test so easily, what will the people at the back think? The Qin family is not an exception. The Qin family is not the end. The Qin family is just the beginning. Do you really think that the enemies behind the Chong department are the reason why the Qin family is in trouble this time? I don't deny that they have great power, but they are still too weak." Song Ryu's words made Qin Sheng ponder. It seemed that it was true. Before this, they seemed to have thought things too simple. Although they had realized the seriousness of the problem and tried their best to face it, they did not really analyze the root of the problem. Until now, they still want to have their cake and eat it too. No wonder it was so difficult. I know what to do, Qin Sheng said meaningfully. Song Ryu could understand Qin Sheng's situation and comforted him. You have no other way. Faced with such a dilemma, anyone can only make the most difficult choice. I think you should have the answer in your heart. Otherwise, if you keep doing this, you may lose both. Qin Sheng stopped and looked at Song Ryu. He said sincerely, Ryu, thank you. Without Song Ryu's analysis today, Qin Sheng might still be confused. Everything was a mess, and he did not know what to do at all. He could only run into obstacles everywhere. In the end, everything he did was in vain. But he knew what to do next. Song Ryu said lightly, You are too polite. We are friends, aren't we? They smiled at each other and did not say any more polite words. However, Qin Sheng would definitely remember Song Ryu's kindness. No matter what the relationship between him and the Song family would be in the future, Qin Sheng was determined to be Song Ryu's friend. Since they had finished talking, Qin Sheng did not waste Song Ryu's time. He watched Song Ryu drive away and then directly returned to the Qin family's villa. The others had not come back yet. Qin Sheng closed himself in the study and reorganized some things. As Song Ryu had said, if the Qin family insisted on holding on to the interests of the Chong and group, the sixth uncle and the others would definitely not let them get what they wanted. They would even take this opportunity to kill the Qin family. However, if the Qin family gave up some interest in the Chong and group, the sixth uncle and the others would naturally get what they deserved and naturally would not continue to fight with the Qin family. In this way, they would not use the Chong and group to suppress Qin Chang'an, and the Qin family could spare enough time to deal with Qin Chang'an. In 2 hours, Qin Sheng finally sorted out the interests. If the Qin family gave up the Chong and group, the Qin family would no longer have the mark of the Chong and group. Would the other families help the Qin family? After all, the Qin family had been in trouble because of some things in the Chong and group. However, how should they choose these interests? It was impossible for them to directly give up all the shares, right? When Qin Sheng came out of the study, his aunt and sister had also come back. The sister came back with some snacks, which were all Qin Sheng's favorite barbecue and crayfish. On the balcony on the second floor, Qin Sheng opened a bottle of beer and took a big gulp. It was really refreshing. Qin Ran was a little curious and asked, Qin Sheng, why did you stay in the study for so long? Qin Sheng hesitated for a moment and said, Sister, I think we have oversimplified a lot of things. If we really do what we did before, I think we'll draw water with a sieve. Not only can we not save the old man, but the Chong and group may also give up. So we have to adjust our strategy. What do you mean? Qin Ran and Zhao Anji looked at Qin Sheng at the same time, confused. They did not know why Qin Sheng suddenly said this. Did they do something wrong? Qin Sheng thought about it and said, Sister, Aunt, I met a friend today. She analyzed a lot of things for me. In a word, the final result is that if we still want to protect the interests of the Chong and group, we definitely can't save the old man. If we want to save the old man, we definitely can't protect the interests of the Chong and group. It is impossible to have both. Our Qin family does not have such great power and energy, so we have to make a choice. Make a choice, Qin Ran asked. Qin Sheng continued. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Think about it carefully. From the moment the accident happened until now, we have been in a mess, haven't we? We haven't thought about the deeper things at all and confused the two things together. In the end, we are confused and don't know how to get out of the situation at all. Most of what we have done is also useless. So we must change this situation. Qin Ran and Zhao Anji's expressions did not change. They began to think about what Qin Sheng had said. It seemed that as Qin Sheng said, they did want too much and did not want to lose anything. Zhao Anji looked at Qin Sheng and said, Then what do you think we should do? Qin Sheng said slowly, Aunt Sister, I think I don't need to ask you. I know your answer. The old man and the Chong and group, if we have to choose one, we will definitely choose the old man. As long as the old man is fine, the interests of the Chong and group are nothing. So I think we should give up the interests of the Chong and group and compromise with sixth uncle in exchange for the old man's safety. Zhao Anji still had a lot of doubts about this, but she still replied, Of course. No matter what, no matter when, we will choose your father. But how can we give up the interests of the Chong and group? Should we give all the interests of the Chong and group to sixth uncle? Do you know how much these interests are? I think even if your father was here, he would not do this. Obviously, Zhao Anji was not very satisfied with Qin Sheng's decision to give up the interests of the Chong and group because the interests were too great. Even if Qin Chang'an came back, with his current situation and power, he might not be able to accumulate such wealth in a short time. After all, Qin Chang'an had spent his whole life to get to where he was today. Moreover, the times and environment were different. Qin Sheng could feel that Aunt Qin had a lot of opinions about this. He respected Aunt Qin and said with a smile, "Aunt Qin, we will talk about this later. Of course, it is not like this. Even if we give up these interests, we will definitely exchange for the same interests." "That's good," Zhao Anji said quietly. Tonight's chat was over. This was just a talk. As for what to do next, they still had to have a specific plan. So Qin Sheng was not so anxious. However, what Qin Sheng needed to do next was to find enough external help for the Qin family. Now, perhaps the guardian families left by the old master could still support the Qin family. Chapter 826. Must pay back. Zhao Anji believed that the Qin family's only bargaining chip was the Chong group. After all, the Qin family was the biggest shareholder of the Chong group. However, if the Qin family gave up the Chong and group, would it still be the Qin family? Would others still take the Qin family seriously? At that time, not to mention saving Qin Chang'an, it was estimated that the Qin family would lose their wives and soldiers, and even the interests of the Chong group would be lost. The gain would not make up for the loss, and the Qin family would leave the big stage of Sijio City. Qin Sheng chose to do so after listening to Song Ruyu's suggestion. Qin Ran, who was also eager to save her father, agreed without hesitation. She felt that the interests of the Chong and group were nothing, and the old man was the most important. Although they knew how many interests there were, they could make such a decision, which was somewhat different from Zhao Anji's idea. For most people, not to mention the huge benefits of the Chong and system, even the benefits of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars were enough to make many brothers turn against each other and father and son become enemies. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran chose to give up such great benefits. How determined they were. Many people might not understand and think it was unnecessary. However, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were very clear that for the Qin family and some big shots, when money reached a certain level, it was really just a number. Even if they earned so much money, they had to be able to spend it all. Moreover, they had to be able to spend it safely. This was a test for many big shots. That was why Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were so determined. However, food had to be eaten bite by bite, and things had to be done step by step. As for how to do it specifically, there had to be a specific plan, not just words. Otherwise, things might turn out contrary to one's wishes, and in the end, one would lose benefits without getting what they deserved. It was a new day. For everyone in the Qin family, the longer they waited, the more pressure they felt. Zhao Anji was still trying to find out news about Qin Chang'an. After all, she was the only elder left in the Qin family. Qin Changxing was not one of them, so the others still recognized her. Qin Ran would keep an eye on the internal affairs of the Chong and group and see how those people would do. Although the Qin family could not stop them, they had to know. As for Qin Sheng, he had to meet the 3 guardian clans. He was not sure himself. So far, the 3 guardian clans had taken action, or only 1 or 2 of them had taken action. He had to figure out their attitude and see if they remembered the Qin family's kindness in the past, or if they were afraid of being implicated by the fire at the city gate. 3 guardian families, 3 phone numbers. Qin Sheng did not know who the other party was. He could only meet them one by one and figure out who was behind this matter. Only then would he know what to do next. Qin Changxing only gave Qin Sheng 3 phone numbers. However, he did not tell Qin Sheng which family was behind each phone number. Consequently, Qin Sheng could only blindly make a call first. After the call was connected, Qin Sheng said straightforwardly, "I am Qin Sheng, the heir of the Qin family." I want to meet the elders of your family." The other side was stunned for a while and didn't know who answered the phone. However, since Qin Changxing gave him this number, it meant that he could directly contact the people in charge of these families. So there was no doubt about the authenticity of the phone number. The other side said, "Wait a minute, I'll call you back later." Qin Sheng hung up the phone with a smile. He didn't seem to be in a hurry. From this response, he could tell that this phone number was not wrong. The identity of the other side had been confirmed. At the same time, the other side obviously knew who he was. Next, he just had to wait for the news. At the foot of West Mountain, the air was fresh and the sun was shining. Qin Sheng strolled on the lawn by the lake, listening to the chatter of the girls and wondering which family they were from. It was really quiet in West Mountain. According to the bodyguards who stayed in the Sihiyuan of the Qin family, there had been a lot of strangers around the Sihiyuan recently. They didn't know who they were. Most of them should be reporters who got the news from somewhere. At least so far, the news of the Qin family had not been released to the public, nor did the Chang'an family. It was said that the Chang'an family, headed by the sixth uncle, had finally reached a consensus. That was before the official announcement. The Chang'an family would deal with all kinds of changes by sticking to the rules. For anyone's inquiry, they would deal with it vaguely as a rumor. If it was released by the online media or self-media, they would directly send a lawyer's letter. Moreover, the Chang'an family had a certain public relations ability to deal with these trivial matters. However, these were not Qin Sheng's concerns. At least before the Chang'an family went to the Qin family, the Qin family, Qin Chang'an, and the Chang'an family would advance together. About 10 minutes later, Qin Sheng received a call from the other side. After the call was connected, the other side said politely, "Hello, I'm Zheng Jinhao, the family master of the Zheng family. I've been waiting for this call. Can you book a place and let's meet?" Qin Sheng didn't expect that the other side would be so proactive, which was exactly what he wanted. So he smiled and said, "Fragrant Hill Park, let's keep in touch." After a moment of silence, the other side nodded and said, "Fragrant Hill Park." At the same time, this sentence revealed a piece of information. That was, the other side was also in Beijing. If the other side was in other places, he would definitely ask where the Fragrant Hill Park was and so on. Qin Sheng didn't think much about this just now. He subconsciously thought that the other side was in Beijing. After the other side hesitated and fell silent, he understood what was going on. About 2 hours later, the other side sent a message to Qin Sheng, saying that they were already on the way and would arrive in about half an hour. They asked Qin Sheng to set out according to the circumstances. After that, they kept in touch on the phone. Qin Sheng was not angry about the other side's refusal for so long. After all, this phone had not rung for so many years. Now the Qin family suddenly came to him. If the Zheng family knew the details of the Qin family, they would obviously know why the Qin family was looking for the Zheng family. They would definitely hold a family meeting to discuss countermeasures before meeting Qin Sheng. How could they meet in a hurry? As Qin Sheng guessed, when the Zheng family received this call, they were not only surprised, but also shocked. Before returning the call, several elders of the Zheng family had already discussed it. After hanging up the phone, several elders of the Zheng family, who knew about this matter, made a simple video call to discuss how to face this matter. After all, their father, who had promised the old master of the Qin family, had passed away. Now they were the only ones left. Should they keep their promise? If they kept their promise, what were they going to do if the Qin family's request or conditions were beyond their ability? If it was within their ability, they could still consider it. After all, if it was just money, it would be even easier. Compared to the old master of the Qin family who directly looked for Qin Changxing, it was obvious that the Zheng family had not figured out who the Qin family was all these years. Perhaps the old master of the Zheng family, who had already passed away, knew the inside story and did not want to tell the younger generation. Hence, the Zheng family was a little flustered and did not know how to face this matter. When it was about time, Qin Sheng then set off for Xianshan Park, which was not far away. Qin Sheng was looking forward to this meeting. When Qin Sheng set off, Master Lu was having a headache. Two things that he was most afraid of had happened, although it was only one of them. The first thing was that the Zhu family would enter the scene forcefully. By then, They would be especially pressured and might have to give up everything that they had. After all, the Zhu family's current status was very high and they were very powerful. It was not something that aristocrats like them, who had already declined, could compare to. However, at least until now, they had used various methods to test the Zhu family. Up until now, the Zhu family still did not have the intention to take action. This made them feel somewhat at ease. After all, the higher the status of the Zhu family, the deeper the taboo would be. The easier it would be for them to take action, the heavier the price they would have to pay. Moreover, it was not that they did not have any power. If they insisted on wrestling with the Zhu family, it might not be impossible for both sides to lose. The second thing was the return of another member of the Qin family. The two brothers of the Qin family, Qin Chang'an and Qin Chongqing, were not easy to deal with. When Master Lu was young, he was an influential figure and had unlimited glory. However, Qin Chongqing was the same back then. It could be said that he was on par with Master Lu. Back then, many people recognized Qin Chongqing. Even Master Lu had to admit that this person was very powerful. This was also why, when Qin Chang'an started from scratch, he had so many external forces to help him. It was because everyone gave Qin Chongqing face. With such help, Qin Chang'an had completed the accumulation of wealth and resources very early on. This was not something that ordinary people could do. Therefore, some people said that the Qin family's current situation was all thanks to Qin Chang'an's hard work. However, only people like Sixth Uncle knew clearly what role Qin Chongqing played in this matter, even though he did not directly ask for help. Why were so many people afraid of Qin Chongqing? Even though more than 20 years had passed, they still did not dare to look down on this monk, who had become a monk. Many people knew of Qin Chongqing's existence, but most of them felt that Qin Chongqing didn't have any power at all. Sixth Uncle and the others also thought so at the beginning, but they still had to be on guard against this person's existence, fearing that something unexpected would happen. They weren't afraid of Qin Chongqing's return. After all, they weren't afraid of Qin Chongqing. It was just that once Qin Chongqing came back, there would be more troubles and variables, which made people uncomfortable. Sixth Uncle, Qin Chongqing did not come back. What were we worried about? On the other side of the phone, a tycoon of the Su family said disapprovingly. He did not take Qin Chongqing seriously at all. However, since Sixth Uncle was so cautious, they had to be cautious as well. Sixth Uncle said thoughtfully, "It's better that he did not come back. Even if he came back, we don't have to worry. So many years have passed. How powerful can he be? I was able to suppress him in the past, let alone now." Sixth Uncle, you are right. Now the Chong in school is already in our pocket, so we don't have to worry too much. There is nothing to be afraid of about an orphan and a widow. Sixth Uncle shook his head and smiled bitterly. Don't say absolute words until the last moment. We still have to be careful. Moreover, this is not only what we want. What do you think? Hearing this, the Su family's elder laughed subconsciously. Fortune came from danger. At this time, Qin Sheng did not know how deep Sixth Uncle's plan was. He had already arrived at Xiangshan Park, and the two of them had contacted the meeting place by phone. When Qin Sheng walked there, he saw a middle-aged man in his 50s in the distance. The middle-aged man was accompanied by two young, strong men who looked like bodyguards. They did not look kind, but for Chang Baji, who was behind Qin Sheng, they were just embroidered pillows. Qin Sheng did not dare to expect the result of today's meeting. However, at this time, they had to pay back what they owed the Qin family. Chapter 827. The mountainous areas on the outskirts of Suzhou City had always been a good place for most of the people in the city to cool off in the summer. Every summer, it would be packed with people. This was the same for cities with mountains in the suburbs. It was the same for Qinsheng when he was in Xin. During the weekends in the summer, the mountain roads would sometimes be blocked. Fortunately, Qinsheng lived at the foot of Zhongnan Mountains when he was a child, so he was familiar with the roads there. The middle-aged man arrived first. He found a pavilion and waited there. After Qinsheng arrived, he went straight to the pavilion. From afar, he saw the middle-aged man in his 50s. His hair had already turned white. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and was dressed more casually. He looked like a rich tycoon. Behind Qin Sheng were Chang Baji, Wu Ge, and Ba He. Chang Baji was extraordinary, while Wu Ge and Ba He were more normal. At least they looked more capable and powerful than the two bodyguards of the middle-aged man. In fact, there were 4 or 5 bodyguards of the Qin family scattered around to prevent dangerous people from entering. After Qin Sheng walked over slowly, he smiled and took the initiative to extend his hand politely. Qin family, Qin Sheng. Zheng Jinhao of the Zheng family. The head of the Zheng family, who seemed to have a good temperament, responded politely. He did not look down on Qin Sheng just because he was a young man. Although he did not know the specific identity of this young man in front of him, the old master had said before his death that the Zheng family could have what it was today thanks to old Master Qin's righteous help. Without old Master Qin, the Zheng family would not have had its current glory. However, the Zheng family had also paid a price for what they had today. That was, the Zheng family had promised old Master Qin that they would become the guardian family of the Qin family. When the Qin family was in danger, they would do their best to help the Qin family and would not go back on their word. However, this was the only time. After so many years, the Zheng family had become the boss of the business world from an ordinary family. However, old Master Qin had never appeared again. Even old Master Zheng, who had promised them, had passed away. Before he died, he told a few of his descendants about this matter, including his eldest son, who was now the head of the Zheng family. Zheng Jinhao didn't take this matter seriously at the beginning. After all, he wasn't the person involved. Moreover, so many years had passed. He didn't even know whether old Master Qin was still alive, let alone where the Qin family was. Therefore, he didn't care much about it. In order to let his father die in peace, he agreed without hesitation. It had been a few years since the death of the old master. Zheng Jinhao had long forgotten about this matter. However, he did not expect to suddenly receive this call that even his father had not waited for. The Qin family, which had helped the Zheng family to overcome the crisis and rise up, had suddenly appeared. Zheng Jinhao panicked for a moment. He hung up the phone and discussed it with his peers in the family before calling Qin Sheng back. After Qin Sheng and Chang Baji revealed their identities, it was easier for them to negotiate. Qin Sheng looked back at Chang Baji and the others and said, "You can wait outside." Zheng Jinhao also followed closely behind. He waved his hand at the two bodyguards to signal them to leave the pavilion. There was no need to worry. After all, the Zheng family was indebted to the Qin family. The relationship between the two families was quite long, so there would not be any accidents. After everyone left, Qin Sheng said straightforwardly, "It seems that you already know my identity?" Zheng Jinhao nodded silently and said, "Of course I know. When my father passed away, he mentioned this matter. However, we didn't take it to heart. It didn't occur to us that such a day would come. It seems that the fate between our two families is still there." Qin Sheng smiled faintly and said, "Since you know, you naturally know why I'm looking for you, right? After so many years, the Qin family has never looked for you. The Zheng family also didn't deliberately contact us. However, I think you're very clear about why the Zheng family has today. Therefore, it's time for the Zheng family to repay our kindness." Qin Sheng didn't deliberately exchange greetings. He was just testing the Zheng family's attitude. After all, so many years had passed. It was all about his grandfather. It was uncertain whether the Zheng family would recognize the Qin family, let alone help the Qin family. However, when the old man was still alive, the guardian family took the initiative to help the Qin family, which meant that many things were not necessarily true. Therefore, Qin Sheng had to first figure out their attitude and then adapt to the situation. Naturally, Zheng Jinhao was very clear about these things. He smiled and said, "When my father passed away, he told us everything. Old Master Qin helped the Zheng family in those years. Naturally, the Zheng family dared not forget his kindness. Now that the Qin family has come to our door, it's time for the Zheng family to repay their kindness." At this time, Zheng Jinhao hesitated for a moment and said, "I think the Qin family is not an ordinary family. May I know where the elders in the family are? Can we meet?" At the beginning, Zheng Jinhao valued Qin Sheng because of the relationship between the Qin family and the Zheng family. However, now that they were talking about business, Zheng Jinhao naturally preferred to talk to the elders of the Qin family instead of Qin Sheng, who was a young man. This made him somewhat worried. Hearing this, Qin Sheng replied, "It's okay. The elders in the family are busy. I can go and represent them, so you don't have to worry about anything." Zheng Jinhao hesitated for a moment and then said, "Okay, since you said so, I won't ask more. I want to know what the Zheng family can do for the Qin family. As long as it's within our ability, the Zheng family will definitely do our best." Qin Sheng slightly frowned and said, "As long as it's within our ability, do our best." It seems that my grandfather and the elders of the Zheng family said that in those years, the Zheng family can be what it is today because of the Qin family. Now that the Qin family is in trouble, the Zheng family should do our best. Hearing this, Zheng Jinhao laughed out loud and said, "Young man, we don't know what happened in those years. What we do now is our own business. The Zheng family owes the Qin family, and we definitely have to repay them. However, if it's beyond our ability, to be honest, the Zheng family can do nothing. After all, our ability is limited. We can't sacrifice the Zheng family for the Qin family, right?" After Zheng Jinhao finished his words, Qin Sheng already understood the meaning of the Zheng family. It seemed that after the elders of the Zheng family passed away, the Zheng family did not take this matter seriously at all. Now, it might be just a formality. To be honest, Qin Sheng was more or less angry. However, he soon felt relieved. After all, these were all reasonable. Therefore, Qin Sheng did not talk about these things anymore. He just asked with a smile, "Is the Zheng family in Beijing?" "Yes, it's rooted in Beijing. Compared to the whole country, it's not bad," Zheng Jinhao replied with some doubts. He did not know what this young man called Qin Sheng meant. Qin Sheng sneered and said, "Oh, but why haven't I heard of the Zheng family? I haven't seen you either. Logically speaking, it should not be. It can only be said that the Zheng family is not doing well in Sijia City, right? Think about it. Based on what you said just now, I think the Zheng family will not be doing well." Qin Sheng's words were very impolite. It was obvious that he meant to insult the Zheng family. Zheng Jinhao was so old. How could he not understand it? He replied very impolitely, "Young man, what you said is a little too much. I can stand here and chat with you because of the relationship between our two families and the kindness that the Zheng family owes the Qin family. I, Zheng Jinhao, am not asking you for anything. Now, the Qin family is asking the Zheng family for help. Otherwise, how could the Qin family come to our door?" From the beginning when they met, Qin Sheng had been quietly sizing Zheng Jinhao up. Although Zheng Jinhao looked like he was in his 50s and seemed to be very polite to him without looking down on him, all these were just a mask. This was because Zheng Jinhao had never really taken Qin Sheng seriously. At first, Qin Sheng thought that he was thinking too much, and some things could be understood. However, when this man said these words, Qin Sheng confirmed his judgment. This man's vision was not high. It seemed that he thought that since the Qin family came to their door, it meant that the Qin family was not doing well as the Zheng family. TSK, TSK, TSK. If the so-called three guardian families of the Qin family were all like this, it would be too disappointing. It meant that grandfather's vision was not good back then. How could he find such a few families? Fortunately, at least one family had taken the initiative to help the Qin family. "I want to ask the Zheng family for help." Qin Sheng laughed out loud and said, "I call you Uncle Zheng out of politeness. Uncle Zheng, the Qin family came to the Zheng family because we want to ask you for help. However, the Zheng family owes the Qin family. It is only right and proper for you to repay the kindness now. Why do we need to ask the Qin family for help?" Zheng Jinhao did not want to talk nonsense. He said impatiently, "I don't want to talk to you. Let your elders come and talk to me." Qin Sheng did not want to waste time. Today, he only wanted to meet these so-called guardian families. Hence, he replied without hesitation, "You want to meet our elders? Haha, you're not qualified yet. You." This sentence could be said to be the biggest insult to Zheng Jinhao. Whether it was the Zheng family or Zheng Jinhao, they were doing well in Jing City. Many people respected them. Now that they were being humiliated by a young man, how could he not be angry? He pointed at Qin Sheng's eyes and almost scolded him. However, he calmed down immediately. He felt that there was no need to fight with a young man, which would show that he was not broad-minded and shrewd. Hence, he put away his finger and smiled maliciously. TSK. From what you said, the Qin family is also doing well in Jing City. Since you said that I am not qualified to meet your elders, then tell me your elders' names. Let me see if I have heard of them. Qin Sheng said playfully, Do you really want to know? You don't dare to say? Zheng Jinhao asked. Qin Sheng shook his head and said with a smile, Forget it. It is not necessary. Even if I know, so what? Zheng Jinhao thought that Qin Sheng was scared and he was just trying to scare him. Hence, he smiled and said, just say it. I am waiting. What is your elder's name? Let me hear it. Qin Sheng squinted and said loudly, Chang'an Department, Qin Chang'an. Zheng Jinhao subconsciously wanted to mock him. However, after hearing Qin Sheng's words, he came to his senses in an instant. He exclaimed and broke into a cold sweat. He was dumbfounded and looked incredulous, as if he had seen a ghost. Chapter 828. The updates during this period of time are terrible. Everyone is very disappointed. Everyone must be wondering why this happened. This is because Lao Guan has prepared a novel with a realistic theme. The day before yesterday, he published it on Zongheng. It's called A Lineage of Inheritance. This book talks about protecting and passing on intangible cultural heritage. It's different from his previous works. It's also the first time Lao Guan has tried this kind of theme. It's not a lot of words, only 300,000 words. Everyone can read it. I hope everyone can support it. How could Qin Sheng tolerate them? Some families could go far in the long river of history. For example, all the generations of the Qin family stood against the torrent of history, instead of being submerged in the long river of history. Therefore, it was not an accident that the Qin family could be where they were today. For example, for a family like the Zheng family, whose structure and strength did not match, it was pure luck that they could have what they had today. Thanks to old Master Qin's righteous words, their family's life was saved. Or it could be said that old Master Zheng was quite a character at that time. But who knew that the son taught by old Master Zheng was like this? Now he even wanted to go back on his word. This was a bit too much. How could Qin Sheng tolerate them? What Qin Sheng did not know was that out of the three guardian families, the Zheng family was the most miserable. It was no wonder that they would choose to go back on their word. This was not without reason. On the contrary, when the Qin family was suddenly in danger, the He family, who took the initiative to help, fared the best. This was the easiest comparison. In fact, Qin Sheng did not have much hope for the three guardian families. This time, he wanted to meet the three guardian families to find out what kind of family was chosen by his grandfather. Secondly, he wanted to see their attitude. Finally, he wanted to know if they could help the Qin family through the crisis. If they were willing, Qin Sheng would be happy. After all, one more helper was like coal in a snowy day for the Qin family. If they were not willing, Qin Sheng would not be too angry. After all, even if they were willing, how much help could they help the Qin family when it was involved in such a big matter? But at this moment, Zheng Jinhao's attitude really made Qin Sheng very unhappy. The Zheng family originally owed the Qin family a favor. Moreover, there was a promise between the two families. The Zheng family should keep their promise. But now it was really like this. Even if the Qin clan asked the Zheng clan for help, they wouldn't ask them to do something beyond their capabilities. After all, the Qin clan didn't have that much ability. However, the Qin clan betrayed the Qin clan, which wasn't the duty of a human being. At this moment, Zheng Jinhao was at a loss of what to do. He had never expected that the Qin family that his father had mentioned back then would be the prominent and well-known Qin family in Sizhou City. He had thought that it was just an ordinary family. However, when Qin Sheng mentioned the name Qin Chang'an, he was shocked. Qin Chang'an? Who didn't know about the famous Master Qin? Everyone in Sizhou City, or in the domestic financial capital field, knew about the Chang and group and Qin Chang'an. Moreover, the most obvious label about the Chang and group in Qin Chang'an was that they were very powerful and had mysterious backgrounds. Although it was said that the Chang and group in Qin Chang'an were involved in something, and he also heard that something happened to the Chang and group in Qin Chang'an these days, he thought it was just a rumor. However, no matter whether it was a rumor or not, it had nothing to do with him. He had never thought that he would have anything to do with such a family. However, God played a joke on him. The Qin family that the old master had mentioned was actually their family. Zheng Jinhao was completely confused. He regretted what he had said just now. For a moment, he didn't know what to say to make up for it. This made him very annoyed with his arrogance. If he had offended such a family, what would the Zheng family do? After all, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. Qin Sheng didn't care about him anymore, nor did he care about his current state. He quietly turned around and was about to leave. He said, I already know about the Zheng family's attitude. I have said what I should say. Since the Zheng family chose to betray the Qin family, we can't do anything about it. Goodbye. See you again. After saying that, Qin Sheng turned around and was about to leave. At this time, Zheng Jinhao came back to his senses and quickly stopped Qin Sheng. He said, About this, we could discuss it. Our Zheng family doesn't mean that. Qin Sheng turned around and looked at Zheng Jinhao. He had seen too many people like Zheng Jinhao. Today, Qin Sheng was no longer the ignorant young man, but a ruthless character who was gradually becoming like Qin Chang'an. He snorted and said, I just want to tell your Zheng family that what you have today was given by our Qin family. Since we can give you these things, we can also take them back. What the Zheng family owes the Qin family, we will pay it back sooner or later. After saying that, Qin Sheng didn't stay any longer. He turned around and left without hesitation. He quickly walked out of the pavilion. Zheng Jinhao, who was already in a mess, quickly chased after him. He had really made a big mistake today. He really regretted it. The two families originally had a relationship. Originally, he could have continued the relationship today. Who knew that he would end up like this? However, when he was about to catch up with Qin Sheng, he was stopped by Brother Wu and Bahi. Zheng Jinhao didn't want to end up in a big fight, so he could only stop and watch Qin Sheng leave. After Qin Sheng walked far away, Zheng Jinhao said in annoyance, What the hell is going on? Zheng Jinhao was not in a hurry to leave. The reason why he did this today was the result of a discussion with the idiots in his family. He thought that the Qin family was here to collect the debt. He felt that the Qin family had helped the Zheng family in the past. Now that the Zheng family was in the limelight, the Qin family wanted to ask for an exorbitant price. Therefore, they had to deal with it carefully. Who knew that it would end up like this? Only now did Zheng Jinhao understand that the Qin family did not think so at all. It was completely the Zheng family who gauged the heart of a gentleman with their own mean measure. In the eyes of the Qin family, the Zheng family was not a big deal at all. However, after calming down, Zheng Jinhao immediately understood one thing. He muttered to himself, Could it be that the rumor is true? Did something really happen to the Chang in school and Qin Chang'an? The reason why Zheng Jinhao thought so was that Qin Sheng had just revealed two pieces of information. One was that the elders in their family were not around, which was very logical. The second was that the Qin family had taken the initiative to contact the Zheng family, which meant that they wanted to ask for help from the Zheng family. What a headache! Zheng Jinhao muttered to himself. In the end, he could only leave Xiangshan Park awkwardly. As for the details, he would discuss it with others when he got home. After all, things had now gone beyond his imagination. Who knew that it would be so complicated? After leaving Xiangshan Park, Qin Sheng was not in a hurry to go home. The first thing he called was the Zheng family. The result was very disappointing. This was the guardian family that his grandfather had chosen. What about the other two families? Therefore, Qin Sheng did not believe that all the guardian families that his grandfather had chosen were like this. After all, there was still the family that had already taken action. Therefore, he made a second call. When the call was connected, Qin Sheng still went straight to the point. I am Qin Sheng from the Qin family. I want to meet the elders of your family. Unexpectedly, before Qin Sheng could finish his words, the other side had already replied, Beiqizi Street. Call me when you arrive. I will send you the specific location. After the other party finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly. Qin Sheng had not reacted yet. He was completely dumbfounded. Originally, he still had something to say. He did not expect that he would be interrupted like this. Even though he was interrupted, he did not say anything. He did not expect that the other party would be more straightforward than him. Obviously, the other party already knew who he was. That was why he said that. This was interesting. After Qin Sheng came to his senses, he said to Bach, who was driving, "I'm not going back. Go to Beiqi Street." Beiqi Street was not very far from the Qin family's Sihiyuan. It was just on the east side of the Forbidden City. The geographical location there was excellent. The real underground of the imperial city could be said to be an inch of gold. There were many state departments and courtyard around, and there were many Sihiyuan that could easily be sold for hundreds of millions. Qin Sheng did not know which family the opposite family belonged to. However, since they knew his identity and chose the place to meet him, they should not be ordinary. No matter how bad they would not be worse than the Zheng family just now. After all, the Zheng family really disappointed him. Therefore, Qin Sheng was looking forward to meeting with this family. It was more than an hour's journey. Qin Sheng closed his eyes to rest for a while, ready to adjust his state to meet later. When he was about to arrive at Beiqi Street, Qin Sheng suddenly received a phone call. If it was in the past, it would not be surprising for Qin Sheng to receive this call. However, in this special period, Qin Sheng was very surprised to receive this call because he had not taken the initiative to contact for some time, because the person who called was his small aunt, Zhu Qingwen. Qin Sheng pondered for a few seconds before answering the phone. "Hello, small aunt, what's wrong?" Qin Sheng was very calm and polite as usual, but Qin Sheng was also like this. Zhu Qingwen on the other side was more and more disappointed, because Qin Sheng had already expressed his attitude, which was to draw a line with the Zhu family. "If I don't ask, you won't tell me, right? How long are you going to hide it from us?" Zhu Qingwen was very unhappy and asked. Qin Sheng laughed at himself. What else could he do? After asking about his small aunt and the Zhu family's attitude for the second time, Qin Sheng had completely given up the idea. Therefore, even after the accident, until now he had not contacted anyone in the Zhu family. Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly as he said, "Small aunt, it seems that you already know." Zhu Qingwen frowned and said, "Such a big thing. How can I not know? You two are so stubborn. Even if we can't help you, there are some things that we can think of for you, right?" Qin Sheng asked his small aunt's kindness, but he only got, "I'm sorry, small aunt." Zhu Qingwen said angrily, "Don't say anything now. I will arrive in Beijing at 8 o'clock in the evening. At that time, you and your sister can come over and talk about the details when we meet." Then she directly hung up the phone. Qin Sheng was very helpless. It seemed that his small aunt was really angry. After hanging up the phone, Qin Sheng was very clear about what would happen when they met in the evening. He and his sister would definitely be severely criticized by his small aunt first, so Qin Sheng prepared to call his sister first. Chapter 829. Actually, Qin Sheng was not surprised that his aunt would call him. Such a big thing happened to the Qin family, and other people already knew about it. How could the Zhu family not know about it? Moreover, the Zhu family had been paying attention to the Qin family's affairs. They did not call or ask or care about it, which meant that the Zhu family deliberately kept silent and did not want to get involved in the Qin family's affairs. After all, the two families did not have much contact in these years. Now, the only relationship left was maintained by Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. To be honest, Qin Sheng had been waiting for this call to see how resolute the Zhu family was. He definitely would not take the initiative to call the Zhu family, because when he was in Shanghai, he had gotten a clear answer from the Zhu family twice. Therefore, it was unnecessary for Qin Sheng to make this call again. This was the remaining dignity of the Qin family. Even if the old man was here, he would not allow him to make this call. Now, his aunt suddenly called him to show her concern. Qin Sheng did not know whether this call was on behalf of his aunt or on behalf of the Zhu family. But no matter what, Qin Sheng was very grateful in his heart. His aunt was still the same aunt who did not abandon them. As for the meeting with his aunt at night, Qin Sheng did not have too much expectation. After all, many things were not so simple. He understood the situation and attitude of his aunt and the Zhu family. He just took this meeting at night, as his aunt's concerned for them. After Qin Sheng finished the call with his sister, as he thought, Qin Ran also had the same idea. She said she got it and asked him to send the address to her. She could go there directly. Qin Sheng was taking action, so was Qin Ran. Compared with Qin Sheng, who had just entered Suzhou City and was inexperienced, Qin Ran grew up in Suzhou City. Most of her friends and childhood friends were second-generation children. Among them, there were many whose fathers were now in high positions. For example, Ma Weiyang, the hot-tempered princess, whose father was now popular in the government. Ever since the Qin family was in trouble, many people had taken the initiative to distance themselves from Qin Ran. Some of them might be opportunistic, and some might be pressured by their families. However, there were still some who stayed by her side. After all, they had been friends for so many years, and it was not easy to break them. In Ma Weiyang's apartment in Wangjing, Qin Ran's childhood friends were giving her advice. Everyone was inquiring about Qin Chong, but there was little success. After all, this matter involved too many people, and it was not something they could easily find out. Even if their fathers knew some inside information, it was impossible for them to casually tell them. Who didn't know their relationship with Qin Ran? In the face of such major issues, these elders knew their limits. Otherwise, how could they have reached their current positions? Other than Ma Weiyang, Zhang De, and Yin Hao, who was a few years younger than them, Fan Deji was not here this time. No one knew if he could not come because he had something to do, or he deliberately chose to avoid the limelight. Ran. How could I not get any information from the old man? I just tried to ask him indirectly, but he was not moved at all. In the end, I directly made a scene, but the old man still did not give in. The higher the official, the more arrogant he is. I have to ask my mother to teach him a lesson. Ma Weiyang chattered on. It seemed that she had a lot of resentment towards her old man. Although she knew very well what was going on, she really could not be cruel to Qin Ran. After all, she was her best friend. They had been together for so many years. How could she not help the Qin family when they encountered such a big problem? Ma Weiyang's apartment was exquisitely decorated, and there were many contemporary and modern works of art. Usually, she would only come here when she had a conflict with her husband. This time, it was just to accompany Qin Ran. After all, it was somewhat inconvenient to be at home. Anyway, her husband did not dare to say anything. "It's okay, I know." "Thank you," Qin Ran said sincerely. She knew that Ma Weiyang had been through so many years of trust. Zhang De poured some tea for Ma Weiyang and Qin Ran. He said thoughtfully, "To be honest, no one can get any information at this time. After all, it is too sensitive. No one is willing to get involved in this. I think we should wait for a period of time until the limelight dies down." When Ma Weiyang heard this, she immediately retorted, "Zhang De, are you stupid? Don't you know this kind of thing? If something happens, we have to act quickly. It will be too late if we wait for a period of time. Do we want to wait until the final conclusion? All right, then you can try. It's not like we haven't tried our best on your side and mine." From the attitude of these elders, we can see that this is not an ordinary matter, Zhang De said impatiently. Qin Ran was a little touched, but also a little helpless. She said, "Stop arguing. I know you are all doing this for me, and I also know that you have tried your best. I will think of a solution for this matter myself." Yihao, who had been silent all this while, suddenly interrupted, "Sister Ran, I heard some news from my grandfather. Do you want to hear it? Actually, it is not very practical. I just heard a few words from my grandfather." Yihao did not usually talk much in front of his brothers and sisters. After all, he was relatively young and was their little follower. However, Yihao's background was not simple, so they usually did not ignore his existence. Ma Weiyang directly stood up and shouted at Yihao, "Ah, little Haozi, what news do you have? Hurry up and say it. Don't hide it." Little Haozi was the nickname Ma Weiyang had given Yihao. It was just that sometimes she called him that, and sometimes she did not. Yihao was already used to it. He looked at Qin Ran and said slowly, "Sister Ran, my grandfather said that now the higher-ups have not reached a consensus on how to deal with this matter. Some people want to punish you severely, while others want to deal with it according to the circumstances. So during this period, no one could see you. I guess you can only find a way to meet Uncle Chin when the opinions are unified. After hearing Yihao's words, Zhang De immediately echoed, "Little Haozi is right. It is very likely that this is the case. By the way, Ran, have they started to investigate the Chong and the system?" Qin Ran thought for a moment and replied, "Although they have taken a few executives to assist in the investigation, there is no comprehensive investigation on the Chong and system. However, the Chong and system is already on the alert. I think it is only a matter of time." Zhang De said quietly, "Then there is no hurry. Let's wait for the news." Ma Weiyang then asked, "Now that your old man is not here, what is the situation inside the Chong and system? I guess it's a mess. Can you and your brother handle it? Even if we can't, we still have to. This is the family business that the old man has worked so hard to build. It's impossible for us to hand over the Chong and school to others. Whoever wants to take the Chong and school from us will have to pay a heavy price," Qin Ran said firmly. Although she had made up her mind that she would not hesitate to give up the Chong and school if she could save the old man, it did not mean that they would hand over the Chong and school to people like Lord Liu. They had to offer enough benefits in exchange. Ma Weiyang held Qin Ran's hand and said, Ran, if you need help, just tell us. We will not let anyone bully you." Zhang De and Yihao also said a few words at this time. Although their abilities were limited, they would definitely not stand by and do nothing. This was not what friends should do. Friends should go all out when their friends were in trouble. On the other side, Qin Sheng finally arrived at Beiqizi Street, which was the closest to the east of the Forbidden City. According to the locations sent by the other side, he finally found the place. As expected, it was a very expensive Sihiyuan. However, it did not seem to be a private house. From the entrance, it looked more like a high-end clubhouse. It was just that it looked more secretive, so it was naturally difficult for ordinary people to enter. When the car that Qin Sheng was in arrived at the entrance of the Sihiyuan, it was unknown whether the security guard at the entrance had recognized Qin Sheng's car or someone had already informed him. The security guard signaled for the two cars to drive directly in. There were high walls outside the Sihiyuan. Naturally, one could not see what was going on inside from the outside. However, after entering the Sihiyuan, it was a completely different world. There were small bridges, flowing water, pavilions, and terraces. It was far from the traditional Sihiyuan in the north that Qin Sheng had imagined. It was more like the inside of a courtyard in Jiangnan. Obviously, the owner of this Sihiyuan was not simple, since it could create such a quiet paradise in the noisy Beiqizi Street. In a few minutes, the car stopped. Qin Sheng slowly got out of the car. When he was about to familiarize himself with the environment of the Sihiyuan and guess the background of the Qin family's guardian family, suddenly, a beautiful woman in a Chong Sam walked slowly from afar. Qin Sheng looked at her from afar and seemed to be somewhat familiar, but he did not dare to recognize her. It did not take long for the beautiful woman in the Chong Sam to walk in front of Qin Sheng. She smiled coldly and said, "What's wrong, young Master Qin? Have you forgotten me so quickly?" After hearing this familiar voice, Qin Sheng instantly recognized who the beautiful woman in the Chong Sam in front of him was. It turned out that she was the ice beauty, Fu Rong, who had helped him go to Putian to kill Yin Chaozong. At the same time, Qin Sheng had already subconsciously guessed the specific identity of the guardian family that he was going to meet at this moment. It turned out that they had already taken action among the 3 guardian families of the Qin family. So far, only the Qin family had taken the initiative to help. Since they knew the Qin family's identity and knew the Qin family's current situation, they still dared to take the initiative to help, which meant that the background of this guardian family was not simple. Qin Sheng was instantly interested in meeting them later. What kind of big shots are they exactly? Chapter 830. Of course, Qin Sheng did not expect to see the iceberg beauty Fu Rong here. But compared to the previous few times they met, this iceberg beauty seemed to be more polite. She was not as distant as before. At least she knew how to smile. However, Qin Sheng did not see her junior brother. That guy was more interesting than Fu Rong. He was extremely handsome. If he dressed up a little, he would definitely be a great beauty who would amaze many men. He was estimated to be as beautiful as his senior sister. Long time no see. I didn't expect that we would meet here. Qin Sheng looked at Fu Rong and replied calmly. He was neither familiar nor distant with him. After all, Fu Rong had helped him with something big. Fu Rong's smile was more like a forced one. But even if it was a forced smile, a beauty smile was like a spring breeze. She said lightly, "Young Master Qin, I didn't expect this. I knew that we would meet again sooner or later." "Oh, it seems that we will meet many times in the future," Qin Sheng said with interest. Fu Rong did not continue to exchange pleasantries with Qin Sheng. After all, they were not that close. She stretched out her hand and said politely, "Young Master Qin, this way please. Grandpa is already waiting for you inside." Hearing Fu Rong's words, Qin Sheng already had a guess in his heart. It turned out that the leader of the guardian families that he was going to meet today was Fu Rong's grandfather. This courtyard house with the charm of a small bridge and flowing water in Jiangnan was about the same size as the Qin family's courtyard house. But the location was much better than the Qin family's courtyard house. Qin Sheng did not know where the Fu family came from. They were so rich and overbearing. This was obviously the Fu family's private territory. Inside and outside, the Fu family's bodyguards were guarding every exit. No strangers were allowed to enter or leave. But they did not stop the people that Qin Sheng brought with him. However, Qin Sheng did not bring too many people with him. He only brought Chang Baji and Yujbak. The rest of the people waited in the courtyard outside. Qin Sheng still had this bit of courage. Moreover, there would not be any accidents this time. After walking through the long corridor of the middle court, when they were about to reach the main house, another familiar person walked out. This familiar person was He Wei, whom Qin Sheng had muttered a few times just now. Compared to Fu Rong's forced smile, He Wei welcomed Qin Sheng directly and was prepared to give Qin Sheng a deep hug. Naturally, he took a few steps back. Chang Baji stood in front of He Wei sensibly and blocked his way. His intention was very clear. Chang Baji stood in front of He Wei and stopped him. His intention was very clear. However, He Wei was not angry, nor did he feel embarrassed. He just smiled and said, "Young Master Qin, what do you mean? We can be considered old friends, right?" Qin Sheng waved his hand. After Chang Baji left, he took 2 steps forward and said, "I was wondering why I didn't see you. If there's a hibiscus, how could you not be there?" At first, Qin Sheng thought that they were a couple. Later on, he found out that they were senior apprentice brother and junior apprentice brother. However, it was obvious that He Wei liked Fu Rong. Fu Rong should also know about it. However, Qin Sheng did not know what He Wei thought about it. Of course, He Wei laughed and said. Then he stepped aside and said, "Young Master Qin, this way please. I'll bring you over." Qin Sheng did not know why, but he felt that these two were a little too enthusiastic today. It was totally different from the last few times he saw them. He could understand He Wei's character, but even Fu Rong smiled and took the initiative to chat with him. This was a little thought-provoking. He Wei walked to the front, followed by Qin Sheng, Chang Baji, and the rest. Fu Rong was at the back of the group. Qin Sheng had seen too many antique styles in this courtyard house, so he did not feel surprised at all. He Wei only stopped when they reached the entrance of the side hall. The side hall was more like a tea room. Outside, there was a beautiful lady playing the zither. Inside, there was someone drinking tea and listening to the zither. It was just that the person's appearance was covered by a curtain. Qin Sheng could not see his face at all. However, he could guess that he must be Fu Rong's grandfather. He Wei smiled and said, "Young Master Qin, please come in. Grandfather has been waiting for a long time." Fu Rong called him Grandpa, and He Wei also called him Grandpa. Whose grandpa was this? Was this guardian family the He family or the Fu family? Qin Sheng was more or less confused. He decided not to think about these things anymore. After that, he went forward and lifted the bamboo curtain, walking in slowly. Outside the side hall, He Wei looked at Chang Baji and the rest. He smiled and gestured for them to take a rest not far away. His meaning was very obvious. He did not want to disturb the big shots inside. Brother Wu and Ba, he looked at Chang Baji and asked him for his opinion. Now that Qin Sheng was not around, they would listen to Chang Baji's opinion. Chang Baji casually glanced at the side hall. He was very clear who Qin Sheng wanted to meet this time. So, he nodded slightly and finally left with the rest. After Qin Sheng entered the side hall, he realized that it was very big. In the middle of the hall, there was a simple and unadorned yellow rosewood table. On top of it, there were 4 treasures of the study and other things. In the middle of the table, there were already a few words written on the Xian paper. It seemed that the words were not finished, but Qin Sheng could not see what was written on it. There were a few red sandalwood bookshelves around the side hall. Naturally, there were many antiques on them. However, some incomplete old books took up most of the space, making this side hall more cultured and not just pretentious. Behind the yellow rosewood table, an old man dressed in black hemp clothes was looking out of the window with his back facing Qin Sheng. The scenery outside the window was also very good. There were lotus flowers and koi fish on the waterside pavilion. The old man casually threw the fish food in his hand into the water, instantly attracting a large group of koi fish. This scene was very spectacular. I heard that your handwriting has been passed down by old Master Qin. What do you think of these words that I wrote? The old man seemed to have heard the movement of Qin Sheng coming in. He slowly turned around and said. At the same time, he quietly looked at this young man who was no stranger to him. The moment the old man turned around, Qin Sheng had already stared at this old man whom he had never met before. It seemed that this old man was not much different from most of the high-ranking people he had seen, except that his hair was thicker than many people and his face had a few more wrinkles. This old man in front of him was just so. As for the so-called temperament and aura, Qin Sheng had seen too many of them, so it was not surprising at all. Old fu old he? Qin Sheng did not answer the old man's opening remarks and asked directly. The old man could not help laughing. He did not expect Qin Sheng to be so stubborn. He replied, "Just call me old he." "What old fu old he? Why does it sound so awkward?" "Just call me old he," Qin Sheng insisted. The old man shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Up to you." At this time, Qin Sheng had already walked to the front of the desk. The old man continued to ask, "What do you think of these words?" This time, it was Qin Sheng's turn to be speechless. He did not expect this old man to be so stubborn. He could only look down at the words on the desk. After thinking for a few seconds, he replied, "Not so good. It has form but no bones. I've gone astray." Upon hearing this, Oldie immediately laughed and said, "Ha ha ha ha. Interesting. Only you dare to say this. There are so many sanctimonious hypocrites in this world." Qin Sheng said disdainfully, "Oldie, I'm not here to talk about this. Let's talk about something serious. It's time to talk about the matter between our 2 families." After Oldie sat down, he waved his hand. The beautiful woman in a cheongsam not far away immediately brought 2 cups of tea. Oldie was not particular about the so-called good tea, nor did he like overly complicated procedures. He liked to directly brew the tea and drink it. "Young man, what's the rush? What's the use of rushing?" Oldie picked up the teacup and glanced at Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng sneered and said, "You may not be anxious, but our Qin family has already reached this stage. How can I not be anxious? Is the He family going to be as ungrateful as the Zheng family? Ungrateful?" When Oldie heard these words, his eyes were obviously displeased. He said, "I don't know what the Zheng family you mentioned is, but our He family doesn't have anything to do with them. If we really wanted to be ungrateful, our He family wouldn't have taken the initiative to get involved in this. Before anything happened to the Qin family, we were already part of the scheme. Don't you know that?" Oldie's eyes were filled with displeasure. Qin Sheng remained silent. It seemed that he was indeed a little impulsive just now. However, this was also to test the He family's attitude. Previously, the He family did that because the Qin family was not in trouble yet. Now that the Qin family was in trouble, he did not know what the He family's attitude was. Hence, after Qin Sheng calmed down, he asked, "Oh, since Oldie said so, what should the He family do next? I think you already know a lot of things, so I won't hide it anymore. The Qin family is already in danger. It's time for the He family to pay back what you owe the Qin family. Oldie did not look down on Qin Sheng. After he was sure that Qin Changxing would not come out of retirement, all the heavy responsibilities of the Qin family were on this young man's shoulders. Hence, all the decisions of this young man were not only related to the future of the Qin family, but also related to the future of the He family, because the two families were now in the same boat. Without old Master Qin, the He family would not be where it is today. That's why I agreed to let the He family become the guardian family of the Qin family. From the beginning until now, our He family has been waiting for this opportunity because I don't want to owe anyone anything in my life. It's just that your Qin family has always been so high and so far, so our He family did not have a chance. Now that the opportunity has come, our He family will pay back what we owe the Qin family. Oldie looked at Qin Sheng and said firmly, although what he said was somewhat unpleasant, and many family members could not wait for something to happen to the Qin family. It had directly expressed the attitude of old He and the He family. After hearing this, Qin Sheng asked directly, how do you want to pay back? Go all out and do your best, old He said slowly. As long as the He family does not perish, we will definitely not let the Qin family down. Hearing the last words of old He, Qin Sheng was instantly shocked to the extreme. This was the real guardian family of the Qin family. No matter how big the storm was, they would live or die with the Qin family, and they would never be ungrateful. Compared to the He family, the so-called Zheng family was not worth mentioning at all. When Qin Sheng looked at old He again, he was suddenly full of respect for this old man. He stood up subconsciously and looked at the old man. Without hesitation, he bowed deeply and said, the Qin family thanks you. Chapter 831. After meeting the Zheng family, Qin Sheng did not have much hope for the so-called guardian families. After all, so many years had passed, and his grandfather had passed away for several years. These were all old things. Who could still remember them? It would be great if they could still remember the existence of the Qin family. As for whether they would still help the Qin family, it was already another matter. Taking a step back, the current Qin family was no longer the same as before. With such a huge storm, no one would dare to get involved, let alone these so-called protector clans. No matter how powerful they were, could they be more powerful than the Qin family's old friends? Therefore, from the very beginning, Qin Sheng did not pin any hopes on them. He just wanted to meet the so-called guardian families. Even if they wanted to help the Qin family would have to weigh their weight. However, the Zheng family disappointed Qin Sheng. Before they could figure out the identity of the Qin family, they had already tactfully rejected Qin Sheng. Therefore, Qin Sheng was not very interested in the meeting with the other two families. Even though he knew that one of the families had already started to help the Qin family, he did not care. However, after meeting old Master He, Qin Sheng was shocked by his attitude. No matter what level the He family was at now, and whether they could really help the Qin family, old Master He's attitude made Qin Sheng feel deep respect. This was the foundation that a real big family should have. No wonder the He family had already taken the initiative to get involved before the Qin family got into trouble. There was no need for the Qin family to say anything at all. Therefore, Qin Sheng said these words. He thanked him on behalf of the Qin family. After this episode, Qin Sheng's attitude towards the He family and old He changed instantly. He was not as cold as before. He took the initiative to start a conversation with old Master He and was not in a hurry to talk about the so-called business. Old Master He understood this change tacitly. He just smiled and chatted with Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng and Mr. He sat opposite each other. Mr. He was very polite to Qin Sheng. After all, he had long known about Qin Sheng's existence. Now that Qin Chang'an was in trouble and Qin Changxing was not around, the future of the Qin family depended on this young man in front of him. As long as the He family wanted to continue helping the Qin family, they had to maintain a relationship with Qin Sheng. They were bound together for good or bad. Qin Sheng, you don't have to be so polite. This is what the He family should do. Without the Qin family, there would be no He family today. It's time to pay back what we owe. Old Master, he said calmly as he drank his tea. It seemed that he did not think that getting involved with the Qin family was a big risk. Maybe he looked calm on the outside, but he was under a lot of pressure on the inside. Qin Sheng also drank his tea casually and said, "Old he, you may think so, but other people don't think so. Actually, after such a big thing happened to our family, I don't have much hope for the guardian families left by my grandfather. But I want to see their attitude. After all, they owe the Qin family. But the Zheng family disappointed me. Every family has its own difficulties. But the Zheng family is indeed a little unkind. I don't know if the elders of the Zheng family who received the old master's kindness are still around. I believe the old master has a good eye for people," Old he said thoughtfully. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and said, "I don't think so." It was a middle-aged man who came today. "No wonder, it makes sense," Old he said with a smile. After talking about these trivial things, Qin Sheng then returned to the main topic. "Old he, I think you already know about our family situation. Do you have any suggestions?" Oldie put down his teacup and looked at Qin Sheng. He sighed and said, "I already know about your family situation and have been paying attention to it. It's just that I didn't get involved. After all, your family didn't take the initiative to find us. Your father may only know about the existence of the guardian families, or maybe he doesn't. But your first uncle definitely knows because we have been in contact all these years." "Oh, I see. So Oldie has met my first uncle?" Qin Sheng asked curiously. Speaking of this, Oldie was a little angry and said disdainfully, "Yes, more than once. Last time, I even went to Mount Wutai personally to persuade your first uncle to come out of retirement. But your first uncle refused. Even when your Qin family was in trouble, I was also the one who informed him. I know you also went to Mount Wutai. You must have persuaded him to come out of retirement. I guess the result is the same." Qin Sheng said helplessly, "Well, as Old he said, first uncle doesn't intend to come out of retirement. But he has his own considerations. I still respect his decision. In this case, I won't say anything more. Anyway, I am more anxious about your family situation than your family. Otherwise, when your father was not in trouble, I wouldn't have sent someone to look for him, although I didn't contact him directly." Oldie said honestly and didn't hide anything. Qin Sheng nodded silently and said, "Speaking of this, I still have to thank Old he for helping me solve a big problem in Shanghai. Otherwise, I would still have a headache now, and it would be impossible for me to return to Beijing so smoothly. But now is not the time to talk about this. Let's talk about what we should do next. Your father is in trouble now, and your uncle can't help much. In the future, the Qin family will still have to rely on you. The He family can only cooperate with you at most. After all, you also understand that the He family's ability is limited," said Old He with a frown. They had helped the Qin family this time not only because they were the Qin family's guardian family, but also because they owed the Qin family a favor. At the same time, Oldie had also made a huge gamble. Oldie had helped the Qin family this time not only because they were the Qin family's guardian family, but also because the Qin family owed them a favor in the past. Therefore, next, Qin Sheng told Old He about the current situation of the Qin family, as well as the ideas he and his sister Qinran discussed. These did not involve any secrets, so Qin Sheng didn't need to worry about saying anything. After listening to Qin Sheng, Old He asked calmly, "Give up the interests of the Chong and family in exchange for your father's freedom?" Qin Sheng said in a low voice, "That's what I think now." "Qin Sheng, I don't think it's that simple. Based on my understanding of this matter, although everyone thinks that your father and the Chong and family are the same thing, I don't think it's the same thing. So I think even if you give up the interests of the Chong and family, you may not be able to exchange for your father's freedom, because it's not that simple," Old He said bluntly. His words were indeed a little pessimistic. After hearing this, Qin Sheng was stunned. After a long time, he asked, "Why do you say so, Old He? The Chong and family is fighting for interests, but your father is—" Old He wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. Qin Sheng frowned and said, "Old He, why can't you say it?" Old He didn't intend to continue. Instead, he said, "I think you don't need to hurry. You can continue to delay the Chong and family. I will help you fight for opportunities for your father. If you can see him in person, it's it's best. Then you can ask him for his opinion. I think he knows better than anyone else. Everyone said different things. Qin Sheng was more or less confused. He could only gnash his teeth and said, "Then I will trouble you, old. I can only say that I will try my best, but I may not be able to do it. You continue to think of some ways, and I will also think of a way for you to deal with the Chong and family. After all, our He family has been in Sijio City for so many years, and we still have some power," old He said confidently. Qin Sheng was not clear about the He family's background, but he would definitely send someone to investigate the He family later. It was not that he didn't trust any family, but that he had to know the trump card before he knew how to play cards. Otherwise, if he put his hope on the He family, what would he do if he ruined things later? After talking about these things, Qin Sheng was ready to leave. After all, there were still many opportunities to meet in the future. Old He personally saw Qin Sheng out of the side hall. Qin Sheng repeatedly declined, but old He still insisted. When old He came out, Fu Rong and He Wei also hurried over. Old He said casually, "Qin Sheng, if the Qin family is short of people, I can lend these 2 kids to you. I trust them to handle things." Old He said casually, "Qin Sheng, if the Qin family lacks people, I can lend these 2 kids to you." Qin Sheng smiled and refused. Old He, not now. If I really need them, I won't hesitate. Old He did not say anything. He just nodded and let Fu Rong and He Wei see Qin Sheng out. After Qin Sheng left Beiqizi Avenue, he directly went to find his sister. Originally, he wanted to see the last guardian family, but because of the time, he could only change it to tomorrow. After all, he had to see his small aunt tonight and see what she could get. Qin Sheng did not want to miss any opportunity now. Chapter 832. When Qin Sheng arrived at Wangjing, Qin Ran had already come out with a few friends. They had talked about everything that needed to be talked about. Although, as Qin Ran's friends, Ma Weiyang and the rest also hoped that the Qin family could get through this crisis as soon as possible, they knew very well that this was not a trivial matter. It was also not the storm that the previous big shots were involved in. The Qin family was probably in trouble this time. However, friends were friends after all. They would only hope for their friends to be friendly and not for their friends to be in a worse state. That would only be watching their friends make a fool of themselves. They would never take advantage of others when they were down. If it was within their abilities, if others were to take advantage of them, they would still stand up for their friends. Ran, are you really not going to have dinner with us tonight? Although you have been busy recently, some things can't be rushed. You have to reduce your stress. I'm afraid that you won't be able to handle it if the pressure is too great, Ma Weiyang said earnestly. As her best friend, she was really worried about Qin Ran. Yihao added, "Sister Ran, we're just having dinner together. I'll send you back after that." Qin Ran did not drive today. The driver drove her home after dropping her off. Qin Sheng said that he would pick her up to meet her aunt after he was done with his work. Hence, they had to stand up for dinner. Qin Ran looked back at them and laughed. "I know you're worried about me, but I really have something to do tonight. Qin Sheng will pick me up soon. He sent me a WeChat message just now." Before Qin Ran's voice died away, Qin Sheng's 2 cars had already arrived downstairs of the building. He saw everyone from afar. After the car stopped, he quickly walked over to greet everyone. Now, Qin Sheng was even more stressed than Qin Ran. Ma Weiyang did not make fun of Qin Sheng. If it were in the past, she would definitely flirt with him. "Qin Sheng, I don't have any requests for you. I just hope that you can take good care of your sister. Don't let us worry." Ma Weiyang patted Qin Sheng's shoulder. Qin Sheng smiled and replied, "Sister Ma Wei, don't worry. I will. And we won't keep you. Let's meet again next time." Ma Weiyang looked at the siblings and said with a heartache. Qin Ran said goodbye to Zhang De and Yihao and followed Qin Sheng into the car. After a while, the 2 cars left Wangjing. After they left, Ma Weiyang and the rest were still standing by the roadside. They were not in a hurry to leave. They seemed to have something to say. "Do you think the Qin family will be able to overcome this crisis?" Ma Weiyang mumbled to herself. In fact, she had heard a lot of news from the old man, but some of it was not good to tell Qin Ran. It was not that she could not say it, but she was afraid that it would make Qin Ran more pessimistic. Zhang De let out a long sigh and said, "It's difficult. Master Qin is not like the others. The scope of his involvement is a little wide. If we really touch Master Qin, I'm afraid many people will be in trouble. It's just that they don't know it yet." Sijio City hasn't been peaceful recently, Yihao muttered to himself, especially in the financial system. After a few big shots, who held the power of life and death got into trouble, who knew how many people would be implicated. Those seemingly glamorous and beautiful local tycoons would eventually be stripped of their underwear. Who knew how many people would have to run away? As a matter of fact, Master Qin got into trouble here. Master Qin and the Chong and group have been the aircraft carrier of the domestic capital industry for the past few years. If this aircraft carrier sank, who knew how many people would suffer? In fact, as some people had guessed, when the big shot who was in charge of the insurance industry got into trouble, the Chong and group was already in danger. Master Qin had been running around for this matter, but he did not expect that he would be so deeply involved that he would not be able to overcome it in the end. Ma Weiyang glanced at Yihao and said, "Haozi, you're still young. Don't be so old. Will you still be able to find a wife in the future? Who would like an old man like you?" "Sister, do we still lack a girlfriend?" Yihao said disapprovingly. With his family background and appearance, he did not know how many women would chase after him. Ma Weiyang said impatiently, "I'm talking about a wife, not a girlfriend. Do you dare to bring any woman home? Believe it or not, your grandpa will break your legs. I know your grandpa's temper." Okay, I beg for mercy. Let's go for dinner. I'm starving." Yihao quickly changed the topic. If he quarreled with Ma Weiyang, he would lose immediately. What's more, it would be easy for her to hold a grudge against him. Who could guarantee that she would return the favor one day? The place that Small Ant had booked for dinner tonight was at Donglishan. She said that she missed the hot pot in Beijing. She was already on her way there. Originally, she would arrive in Beijing at 8 o'clock. Maybe she thought it was too late, so she changed it to the afternoon. On the way to Donglishan, Qin Sheng told his sister about the result of today's meeting. Needless to say, he did not mention the Zheng family, but he mainly talked about the He family and Old Master He. He wanted to see if his sister knew about the He family's background. After all, his sister grew up in Sijio City, unlike him, who knew nothing about Sijio City. Qin Ran said quietly, "This Zheng family is a little strange, but I haven't heard of them. I can ask others later." She was also very angry about the Zheng family's attitude. Maybe they thought that the Qin family wanted to ride on the Zheng family's coattails. They thought that the Qin family could not survive anymore, so they came to the Zheng family. They did not know that the Zheng family was nothing in the Qin family's eyes. They just wanted to see what the guardian family left by their grandpa was like. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "Sister, there's no need to be angry with the Zheng family. Since even you don't know them, I guess they're just a little rich and can't help us much. It's better to keep a distance from them. Let's talk about the rest later." Qin Ran said casually, "Well, you are right. Then I will listen to you." Qin Sheng followed up and asked, "Sister, do you know anything about the He family? I feel that the He family is not simple. They should have known the Qin family's identity long ago. These years, they have been contacting First Uncle. They know that the Qin family is in danger, but they chose to take the initiative to get involved." When Qin Sheng mentioned the He family, Qin Ran already wanted to say something. At this time, she said meaningfully, "This old master, he is not simple. What do you think of the He family? I will tell you later. Anyway, the He family may really be able to help the Qin family." Qin Sheng did not expect that his sister would have such a high evaluation of the He family. It seemed that today's trip was not in vain. The He family did not let him down, nor did they let the Qin family down. He said calmly, "Well, I will continue to contact the He family. We will talk about the details when the time comes." Qin Ran asked casually, "What about the other family?" Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "Not today. I will make an appointment for tomorrow." When they arrived at the restaurant on Qianmen Street of Donglishan, Small Ant was already waiting for them inside. This restaurant was close to the 8 Alleys and Lulikang. Not far away was the Temple of Heaven Park. After dinner, they could stroll around. Zhu Qingwen was waiting for the sister and brother in the private room. She was alone and did not bring anyone else. After the Qin family was in trouble, the whole Zhu family seemed to have a tacit understanding to keep silent. No one took the initiative to call the sister and brother. It was not that they did not care about them. On the contrary, they cared about them more than anyone else. However, when it came to such a big matter, if there was no elder's order, they did not dare to make decisions on their own. Pushing the door and entering, the sister and brother did not seem to know how to greet their small aunt. They just called her small aunt obediently. It seemed that they were more distant than in the past, and were not so close. Zhu Qingwen also felt it. She did not know if they were too tired these days, or if they were angry at the Zhu family. Sit down first. Zhu Qingwen asked the sister and brother to sit down, and took the initiative to pour a cup of tea for them. She cared about them. Then Zhu Qingwen called the waiter to order. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran casually ordered 2 dishes. The rest was ordered by Zhu Qingwen. After all, she wanted to eat Dong Lishan's hot pot. Although she came to Beijing many times, she was always in a hurry every time. Most of the time, she went to dinner arranged by others or treated others to dinner. She rarely had the chance to eat hot pot. In the past, when they were in Beijing, there was a Dong Lishan hot pot restaurant near the Zhu family's house. Their parents would take them there almost every month, so they liked the taste very much. Later, after they moved to Zhejiang, they rarely had such opportunities. After ordering, Zhu Qingwen looked at Qin Ran and Qin Sheng and said, "I haven't seen you for a few days. You two have suffered a lot. If the old lady saw you like this, she would be very distressed." Qin Ran asked tentatively, "Small aunt, does Grandma know?" "Not yet. I'm hiding it from her. I don't dare to let the old lady know. Who knows what kind of trouble it will cause? How will we deal with it then?" Zhu Qingwen did not hide anything. She told him the truth. If the old lady had an accident because of her relapse, it would not be worth it. No one could bear the responsibility. Qin Ran breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. Grandma can't stand such a big thing." "What? Do you have resentment against us? You didn't call us for such a long time and didn't discuss with us. Are you drawing a line with us or not contacting us in the future?" Zhu Qingwen looked at the sister and brother and asked deliberately. Qin Ran shook her head first and replied, "No. We know that small aunt, uncle, and you are very busy. We didn't want to disturb you. We can solve these things by ourselves." "You still say you don't have resentment? Can you really solve it?" Zhu Qingwen chuckled. At this time, Qin Sheng said, "Small aunt, we understand. Although we understand, we still have resentment in our hearts." It seemed that Zhu Qingwen would not let go of this matter. Qin Ran and Qin Sheng looked at each other and smiled helplessly. How could they not have resentment? Such a big thing was shouldered by the sister and brother. Although they could understand it, they still had resentment in their hearts. "This time, it is not only my idea to meet you, but also the idea of your uncle and uncle. They are afraid that you don't know how to face and deal with this matter, and finally let you sink too deep. So they asked me to come to Beijing to meet you." Zhu Qingwen went straight to the point and said the purpose of this trip, which could be regarded as relieving Qin Sheng and Qin Ran. Qin Ran was a little surprised, and Qin Sheng was even more stunned. It did not occur to him that small aunt came with the attitude of the Zhu family. Qin Sheng asked eagerly, "Small aunt, what do you think we should do?" "One word, wait," Zhu Qingwen said meaningfully. "Wait?" Qin Sheng and Qin Ran looked at each other, as if they did not understand what she meant. Chapter 833. Since the old man's accident, Qin Sheng had met several waves of people. Some people avoided meeting him, some people were ambiguous, and some people also gave him suggestions and so on. In addition, they analyzed and judged by themselves. So far, there were already several different opinions, and almost everyone's opinions were different, which gave Qin Sheng a headache. Especially after Zhu Qingwen said to wait, Qin Sheng became more confused. What on earth should he do? Whether it was to protect the interests of the Chong and people, or try to find a way to save the old man, or choose one of the two. He could not wait. Qin Ran asked directly, Small ant, wait? Just wait like this? When will we wait? If we just wait, we can only see the situation getting worse. Who will help us in the end? What should we do then? At this time, Qin Sheng also said, Small ant, I know a lot of people's stories. If we just wait, I'm afraid the longer we wait, the worse it will be for us. Of course, Zhu Qingwen knew that when she said this, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran would definitely refute her. She explained truthfully, if this is not my opinion, but your uncle and uncles, what will you think? Qin Sheng was shocked. Uncle and uncles? Qin Ran was also very surprised. She did not expect that it was not her small aunt's opinion, but her uncle and uncles. If it was really her uncle and uncles, then it would need to be discussed. At this time, the waiter began to serve the dishes. Zhu Qingwen did not say anything more. She just said casually, let's eat first. You must be hungry. I guess you don't have much appetite these days. But we have to solve the problem and eat on time. Nothing is more important than your health. Qin Sheng was not particularly fond of the old Beijing hot pot. After all, he grew up in Xi'an, where the taste was more sour and spicy. Later, he went to the southwest of Chengdu, Yunnan, Guizhou, Sichuan, and Tibet for a long time, so he preferred the hot pot there. Therefore, he just took small bites and did not eat like a whirlwind in the past. Zhu Qingwen had always been a vegetarian, and her taste was relatively bland. In recent years, she had been living in the Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai area, so she preferred the taste of old Beijing. Qin Ran was the same. She grew up in Beijing and used to eat this kind of hot pot, so she was used to it. Zhu Qingwen ordered 2 plates of beef and mutton, and the rest were basically some vegetables. Qin Sheng ate very little and spent most of his time watching them eat. This should be very rare for Qin Sheng. Auntie, Uncle didn't say why we're waiting. In the end, Qin Sheng could not help but ask, were they going to keep waiting like this? He was afraid that the longer they waited, the more anxious they would be. In the end, they would only be in a mess. Zhu Qingwen put down his chopsticks and took a sip of water. I think you must have begged a lot of people and met a lot of people during this period of time. Maybe they gave you a lot of ideas. But your uncle and I are at a different level. Maybe you don't know how I see things. He must have his reasons for saying this. Qin Ran also asked, Auntie, didn't Uncle say when we should wait? No, he just said wait, 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 and everything will be clear. Maybe your father's problem will be easy to solve. If you are still so anxious and try any doctor, not only will you not be able to solve the problem, but it may also be superfluous. Zhu Qingwen explained very patiently. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran were silent. They really did not know what to do. If they went home and discussed it with their aunt, they did not know whether she would agree or not. Everyone can hurt you, but we won't. Your uncle said this for your sake. If you have any problems in the future, you can call me at any time. Don't be like before. Although it is difficult for us to help you directly, who said that we can't give you advice? Am I right? Zhu Qingwen said with a smile. Hearing this, Qin Ran more or less became more confident. No matter what, although she still felt resentful, they were after all her uncle and small aunt. They had never treated her badly over these years. She trusted them more. Auntie, we can wait for the old man's problem, but what about the Chang and organization? Qin Sheng wanted to ask more questions. Zhu Qingwen said impatiently, Sheng, sometimes don't think too much. You can choose to give up at any time. Don't let the interests kidnap you. Besides, they are so troublesome. Are they really not afraid? At that time, the one who jumps the most happily will be the most unlucky. Many people are watching. After Zhu Qingwen said this, Qin Sheng naturally understood what was going on. That was, they did not need to care about the interests of the Chang and organization for the time being, and let those people fight for it. One more thing, Sheng you should learn the future. Not only do you see the short-term danger, but also the long-term danger. Behind the danger, there may be greater danger. Take the interests of the Chang, an organization, for example. Do you think only those people are watching? Once the matter with your father is settled, I can tell you something. As long as they have the background to share the cake, they will jump out. At that time, there will be so many opponents. Which one do you think you can face? Zhu Qingwen said, after careful consideration. Some people had already been blinded by the benefits in front of them, and some people did not want to be involved in this matter. However, those who were truly capable were all hidden behind the scenes. It was just that it was not time for them to make a move yet. Hearing this, Qin Sheng was shocked and broke into a cold sweat. It seemed that he had never thought about this problem. Now this problem was thrown out by a small ant, and he did not even know how to face it. So his small ant reminded him today. Zhu Qingwen looked at Qin Sheng and continued. Sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing to be calm. You could be a rich playboy during this period. She had her own reasons for saying this. Qin Sheng said thoughtfully, Auntie, I understand. I know what to do. Then let's eat, Zhu Qingwen said with a smile. Qin Ran listened to the conversation between her small aunt and her brother, but she did not seem to understand what was going on. The dinner was over soon. Zhu Qingwen's driver was already waiting at the gate of Donglishan. After Qin Sheng and Qin Ran saw off his small aunt, they did not rush back. Qin Sheng suggested that they go to Lulikang, which was nearby. He had been in Beijing for a while, but it seemed that he had not been to this famous place. Walking into the alleys of Lulikang, there were antique shops on both sides of the road. There were also many people setting up stalls by the roadside, holding antiques of unknown authenticity and shouting. Of course, there were also real antiques, but it depended on the big shot's ability to pick up antiques. But most of them were definitely fake. If someone was wrong, he could not blame others. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran walked in the front, and Chang Baji and the others walked behind them, keeping a distance. Qin Sheng walked and stopped with interest, looking at these antiques as a way to broaden his knowledge. But even a dabbler like him could see that most of them were fake. Some people's counterfeiting ability was really extraordinary. No one of this place was mixed with crooks and honest people. If Uncle Jiang came here in the future, he could come over and take a look. He was a real big shot and had handled too many things. Even the one who opened a museum in the center of Shanghai had looked for him. Qin Sheng, what did your small aunt mean at the end? Qin Ran asked curiously. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, Sister, I thought you understood everything. Hurry up. If I knew, why would I ask you? Qin Ran said impatiently. Qin Sheng quickly replied, Sister, don't be angry, I'll tell you. When Qin Ran and Qin Sheng walked on the street, they were definitely a golden couple. Those who did not know them would think that they were a couple. Their temperament was not simple. Hence, many peddlers were shouting and trying to rope them in, wondering if they were fools and wanted to rip them off. Little did they know that Qin Sheng was also half an expert. Then hurry up and say it. Qin Ran stared at Qin Sheng and said. Qin Sheng replied, I guess what small ant means is that the more trouble we make at this time, the more opinions some people will have on us. At this time, no matter what others do, our Qin family must be calm, or it will do harm to our Qin family. When things start to become clear, it will not be too late for us to take action. Another possibility is that she wants me to be a playboy so that I can deceive others, or they will only be more cautious about us. Then do we really have to listen to small ant? Qin Ran was still a little worried. Qin Sheng said helplessly, Sister, can we not listen to small ant? Otherwise, what if they really don't care about us in the future? Since small ant can meet us today, it means that they do not really intend to ignore this matter. Maybe it is not the right time, so they can only do this. Are you sure? Qin Ran said doubtfully. Qin Sheng shrugged and said, I'm just guessing. Then what about Andy? Qin Ran said a little uneasily. Yesterday, they had some unpleasant things with Andy. Now they changed their minds. Andy would definitely be angry. Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, What can we do? Try to persuade her. Qin Ran nodded. It seemed that they could only do this. Qin Sheng did not want to think about these things. He shook his head hard and smiled bitterly. Sister, let's not talk about these things. It is not easy to come here. Let's take a good look and see if we can be lucky and pick up one or two things today. Don't be fooled, Qin Ran said with a smile. The sister and brother had been under a lot of pressure recently. At this time, they simply did not care about anything and just took it as a way to relax. As for what to do next, they would take one step at a time. In the evening, When Qin Sheng and Qin Ran returned to the villa, Zhao Anji had already returned. She had indeed been active recently. She also tried to get in touch with many people who she had not contacted for many years, hoping to get more information. After all, she was the daughter-in-law of the Qin family, and now she was also the only elder in the Qin family who could do something. Qin Sheng was lucky. After shopping there for more than an hour, he really picked up two things. One was a jade pendant from the Ming dynasty, which looked a little old. It was estimated that even the seller did not know whether it was real or fake. However, Qin Sheng seemed to have seen the same jade pendant at Jiang Xinbang's place, so he did not hesitate to buy it. He only spent a few thousand yuan and directly gave it to his sister. The other one was a piece of calligraphy and painting. Although it was not the original one, it was also a high imitation of the original one. Moreover, the owner of this high imitation was a master. That was why it was not recognized by others. Qin Sheng happened to be an expert in this aspect, so he was lucky. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.